Please take the time to visit podsurvey.com/peasants to complete a short 21-question survey. Participants in the survey will be entered into a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. The survey can be taken multiple times, so feel free to visit back each month for your chance to enter the drawing. Please help support the show by using our Amazon links located in the description anytime you purchase anything from Amazon. It's a great way to support the show while just going about your normal business shopping on Amazon.com. Also, check out our storefront for Drunken Peasants recommended merchandise. Patreon pledges of $5 or more will now receive 2 private shows each month. In addition to the private shows, Patreon pledges of $10 or more will receive the Drunken Peasants post show after each episode of the Drunken Peasants, Ben and Billy's monthly shitty movie review, and regular behind-the-scenes vlogs with Ben and Billy. Sign up anytime to catch the future shows as well as past content. If you want to catch the post shows but you're not a patron, click the join link below this video to become a member of the Drunken Peasants channel. In addition to each post show, you'll also get special badges and emojis that you can use in the Drunken Peasants live chat. Streamlabs will be open for the duration of each episode. Click the link below to send us a message. Donations $20 and above will be read out through text-to-speech and will require our immediate attention. All donations below $20 will be read at the end of each segment. Keep an eye out for our weekly Streamlabs goal, which if we meet, we will do an extra show the following week. If you find any content you'd like to see us cover on the show, send it to drunkenpeasantsinbox at gmail.com. All submissions will be reviewed for possible usage in a future episode. Click the Discord link in our description to join the Drunken Peasants Discord. Interact with other Drunken Peasants fans in text and voice chat, as well as the peasants themselves. Visit the Google Play Store and download the Drunken Peasants app to catch the audio version of the show while you're on the road. In addition to the app, the audio-only version of the show is also available through iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, and other audio platforms. That's all we have for now. Enjoy the show.
In the beginning, there was nothing. And then there was the Drunken Peasants Podcast.
Say, man, you got a joint? No, not on you, man. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
From the strangest corners of the internet, here to bring you opinions of the world from an altered perspective. Here are your hosts, the Drunken Peasants.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Drunken Peasants Podcast, episode 581. And joining us tonight for the first time ever, we have Nick Rekieta from Rekieta Law. Welcome.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's awesome to have you here. So for those people who aren't familiar with you, who are you and what do you do? If you could give us kind of a summary.
Sure. Yeah, well, I'm a lawyer who practices in central Minnesota, and at night, every weeknight, I run a live YouTube show called Law-Splaining the Interwebs, which is admittedly the worst title that it could possibly be, and I just basically cover legal documents or legally adjacent subjects, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, I remember the first time I ever saw you, you had done a few videos with Anthony Fantano, or at least one video with him at one point.
Yeah, I covered Fantano's situation with Fader.
Yes.
And they had basically, messed with a live tour that he was doing by calling him a Nazi or alt-right or whatever. And Fantano is pretty far from alt-right.
Absolutely.
So they did that. I kind of speculated on what probably happened behind the scenes. And then Fantano reached out to me when I was covering the lawsuit between Mars Argo and Poppy and Titanic Sinclair, I think. And we just talked about that for a little bit. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. My channel was really small, but he had liked my coverage of his situation, so reached out to me on that subject.
Yeah. We actually know him personally, and he was supposed to come out here to Seattle where we live during that tour, and that hit piece got his whole tour canceled, which was ridiculous. But he finally got to do it this year. So about 2 years later, he finally got to do it.
The hit piece was kind of cool for like me personally.
Why?
Because like the night before the hit piece released, he had tweeted something about my album. And then like the hit piece came out and he kind of forgot about it. But I talked to him about it and he said the album fucking sucked. So it was going to be a terrible review.
Oh.
So everything worked out in my favor.
In your favor.
Yeah. No, it usually does.
Yeah. Usually looking out for yourself, too.
Whoa.
So.
That's number one, right?
Yeah.
You can't help anybody else till you help yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, it's insane. It's insane to even
propose a libel lawsuit against someone. Isn't that the sort of thing that would get tied up in court for a really long time?
Yeah, it's very, very expensive. The damages have to be significant. Most importantly, you have to have money to pay.
Right.
An online publication like Fader, which I think they run on a budget that's roughly sufficient to buy the bottle top of a Coke, is probably not going to be able to pay any judgment. And it's a real sort of nefarious part of our system that we have right now, is these little publications that run on shoestring budgets with journalists who can't even afford bread are going after people, demonetizing them and costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's that's what they did to Fantano. I don't know how much that ended up setting him back, but it had the potential, if it was done today in the same way, it would have the potential to take down his whole show.
Right. Oh yeah. In today's climate, cancel culture and all that stuff would come into play. So, yeah, it seems a lot more people get convicted by the court of public opinion now. At least that's how it seems to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's more and more effective. Although we need a couple people. We just need a couple to stand up and fight back, and then I think that's it. But right now, everybody, especially in larger companies which move a little slower, are stuck on this idea that the accusations will cause all advertisers to leave and all customers to kill themselves, and and it's not true. It's over and over again shown not to be true if you just stick it out. But it's hard for people to do that.
If it was true, I'd invest in like funeral homes. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I pulled up a few articles from today. I've been following the Vox Apocalypse, which some people call Apocalypse Part 3. There's been 3 of them.
Well, but the Vox Apocalypse bullshit, it's really Vox trying to start an apocalypse, and so far, I don't think any advertisers have backed out, right?
Well, people have lost their monetization, which is even worse.
It's not good.
So our channel, we lost one video, which is ridiculous. We lost our video based on the subject matter of the video alone, not what we said in the video. We were mocking some conspiracy theorists that thought the Sandy Hook massacre was a false flag operation, and we were laughing at him. He was offering like a $25,000 reward for anyone who could actually prove it, but the only way to prove it to him is to like prove a dead kid exists. Basically, it's that crazy.
We just got to exhume the kids.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the answer there.
What's the fine for digging up a dead kid? Is it more than $25,000?
Yes.
Okay. Not worth it.
You'll probably get killed in the process too.
So YouTube looked at that video and assumed we're pulling like an Alex Jones type thing and questioning the validity of the Sandy Hook massacre and saying it's a false flag and all that. When we were doing the opposite, we were poking fun at the ridiculousness of it, and, because that's what we do here. So.
Yeah. Oh, I noticed this Newsweek, and it's by Stephen R. Azark. That guy DM'd me at 9 this morning, asking for comment on the situation, and it was 9 in the morning, and I streamed until like 4, so I was still asleep. So I guess he's not going to be returning my DM.
I heard the same thing from another YouTuber who said that he got DM'd for it and then wasn't awake, so he realized the article was already up by the time he noticed. Oops.
Yeah. When you DM someone who streams at I do 11 p.m. to 2 or later a.m. every night. Don't DM me at 9.
You pull huge numbers for such a late time slot.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you average about. It looks like you average about 5,000 live viewers. How long do you normally stream on average?
3 hours at least.
Okay,
typically.
I'll tell you what. I think your channel is proof that YouTube, they count view counts way more discriminately now than they used to, because this channel used to pull those kind of numbers and we would always have 100,000 to 200,000 views per video, like within a few weeks. But I noticed your videos, they kind of hang around like 60, 70,000, but you definitely get the kind of views that this channel got at one time. So I think YouTube changed the way that they count views.
Yeah, I noticed when you've got the studio ingestion page up or whatever, the live control room, and you've got the little timer that's showing how long your stream has been going. It used to reset after, I think, 54 minutes. Now it resets somewhere around 2 hours to. So I think they effectively have the views that come out from the live views. Because it used to be if you had 1,000 people watching for 3-4 hours, you'd have something like 8,000 views.
Right.
And nowadays they've cut that dramatically.
They have.
So yeah, I think I noticed the change. It was actually right when my channel was getting bigger that change happened. And I was like, oh man.
I've seen them take away views after the fact. I've seen
views drop. Yeah,
I've gone to bed with like 4,000 views on a stream and woke up and there's 3,500. Just as an example, they go.
That's
away.
Nice of them. Those are pretend people,
right?
Yeah. Who needs those views anyways? While we read this, I want to play a little side game.
I missed my joke. They were Sandy Hook kids. Dang it! Oh my god!
Yeah, the Sandy Hook kids' views don't count. They're not real. They're not real.
That is good.
As a side game, we should look at any YouTubers that are actually quoted in this, and we can out them as not living the rock star life and going to bed early and waking up early. Because if Nick, if you were too late to rise to be in this article, then all these other people must be goody two shoes that go to bed way early. So when we see them, we'll be like, dude is not a rock star. On Wednesday, YouTube announced it will limit access or outright ban content it deems racist or supportive of white supremacy. In an official blog post, company representatives wrote, videos alleging that a group is superior in order to justify discrimination, segregation, or exclusion based on qualities like age, gender, race, caste, religion, sexual orientation, or veteran status will no longer be allowed on the platform. The site's algorithm will also change to push less authoritative content in viewers' recommended feeds. For example, if a person watches a video that comes close to violating YouTube's policies, they might be recommended videos from more established and reputable news outlets.
Right. Right. So we make a video about the ridiculousness of Sandy Hook conspiracy theories. The video gets pulled down. CNN does it. They're fine.
They're reputable.
They can do it. They're reputable.
They're not an obscure alt-right podcast.
Right.
They did a similar thing before, and I can't remember when this was. This was years, like a couple years before I even really started on YouTube. I think around 2014, 2015. And the mainstream traditional media were getting blown out on views consistently by the Young Turks, which makes me want to die, but also people like Crowder and Shapiro. I mean, they were getting. You could look at the charts. They were getting absolutely hammered.
I remember that. Yep, you're absolutely right.
And then YouTube made a conscious switch to pump more of these traditional media platforms, and they suddenly are like the roles get just flat reversed. They had suddenly like 3 times the views of people who were just reaming them out the week before.
And this happened around the same time when YouTube decided they wanted to be an alternative to cable television. They wanted to be an online cable television provider and produce their own content like Cobra Kai. So that kind of brings up a new question. Is this, we're just trying to make our platform safe and we're just trying to keep our platform, good for everyone who wants to use it? We're trying to get rid of racism. Is that just a red herring for them wanting to pander to the corporate creators above the independent creators?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And if you look at it this way, YouTube pays us to be successful. CNN, NBC, they pay YouTube to be successful. Yeah. Right? Like whatever they're paying and whatever they're getting paid out in ad revenue, if their content's even monetized, they're paying into YouTube for the exposure because that exposure drives traffic to their main channels. At least they think so, at a rate which is it's a cost benefit analysis. For us, we don't have a massive traditional backbone distribution that is monetized through a bunch of Viagra ads. We just have whatever YouTube decides to put on our video. And so if you get, like a puppy mill ad over and over again because YouTube hates you, that's just what you're stuck with. Whereas they're paying for it. And I would wager, I can almost guarantee that when they first did that big switch a couple years ago, that the major news groups all paid significant dollars to YouTube to push them decidedly up the algorithm. I would wager that that's something that's going on here as well.
I mean, weren't there also YouTube lawsuits with Viacom? Do you think maybe the way they monetize content for things like Viacom might have been part of their settlement or something like that? Or are they just trying to avoid more issues with them?
It's entirely possible. I haven't really read through their lawsuits at all. So I couldn't tell you, but if you're settling anything outside of overtly illegal stuff is fine in settlement. You can come to any sort of agreement you want. Okay. So it's very possible.
Viacom bought VidCon, right?
Yeah, that is very strange. Because that was the first big copyright thing to ever hit YouTube. Was Viacom, and there was a time where if you uploaded even 20 seconds of something owned by Viacom, the whole video would get taken down, and you'd probably get a strike.
Right.
It's loosened up a lot now. We recently got a strike. It's funny that you mentioned advertising because, since the first Adpocalypse, we've gotten advertisers through other means, our own direct advertisers. And a few years ago, when the Adpocalypse was first, starting to happen, we did advertising for a wine company that would ship you a box of wine. You would pick and choose what you wanted. And then once a month, they'd ship you a case of wine. And at the time, there was no rules on YouTube about this. But apparently now, I wasn't even aware of this until we got punished for it. That's how YouTube works. You're not allowed to advertise alcohol on YouTube.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that sucks.
Or nicotine, but perfectly legal substances. Like, I can understand the gray area of cannabis. Like, it's legal where we live, but it's not legal all over in the U.S. Like, I understand those sort of things. But when it's legal everywhere and it's a legal product you can, walk a mile to any store and buy, I don't understand. I don't understand that policy.
Well, all I know is RIP all of my prospects, which is liquor advertisements are what I was going for.
Trying to give me a sponsorship.
I actually got turned down by Lagavulin.
I'm not familiar with that. Who's Lagavulin?
It's a Scotch. It's one of the 5 original Scotch distilleries or whatever on Scotland. They make a really smoky and peaty Scotch, and I was drinking it like crazy when I first started. And a bunch of people from the Dick Show Facebook group were trying to get me a Lagavulin sponsorship, and they wrote to me out of the blue. They messaged me on Facebook and they said, "Hey, we understand you're a big fan of our product, and that's great, but we've analyzed your videos and we've decided that you promote unhealthy drinking practice."
Oh, wow. Really? I wasn't expecting that they would say that. That's pretty hilarious, though. Yeah, I mean, the answer shouldn't be that you can't take a sponsorship. The answer should be, let's get the fuck off of YouTube so that we can take advantage of these sponsorships. If YouTube's going to hold us back the way they are. That's how I feel about it. And this channel got the least of it. We just had a video removed. No strikes, no limitations or anything. Some people lost all of their monetization, and some people were just kicked off the platform entirely, which is crazy.
It's not.
Yeah, and admittingly, here on this show, we are left of center here. But what we do is a big part of our content is that we watch videos of people that we disagree with and, challenge their ideas as they say them. If those people got banned, we wouldn't have anyone to talk about. So we don't want anyone getting banned, especially if we disagree with them.
Yeah.
So,
I want the people who I find their speech to be the worst. I want their speech to be most available because I want other people to come to the conclusion that their speech is bad.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't want them hiding it.
Well, yeah, pretending like they don't exist isn't going to cause them to not exist.
You get rid of the darkness by shining the light on it.
Ooh, I like that.
I think I read that in a comic book.
So check this out. This is another example of the subject matter of your YouTube video getting it banned now.
This history teacher had his educational YouTube channel banned for hosting hate speech.
I think he was talking about Holocaust stuff or Nazi related stuff.
The YouTube community was thrown into chaos Wednesday as the company rolled out a new policy intended to prohibit discriminatory content. A dozen prominent channels run by far-right influencers were demonetized, and a few white nationalists had their accounts outright banned. One channel, however, run by a history teacher named Scott Alsep, based in Romania, was mistakenly banned for hosting archival footage of Nazi propaganda that was used for educational purposes. My stomach fell, Alsop told BuzzFeed News via email. I'm a history teacher, not someone who promotes hatred. I share archive footage and study materials to help students learn about the past.
Yeah, so here's an issue. Someone makes an educational YouTube channel and it gets suspended. You know, Streamlabs, which is just a free tool for streamers to use. Somehow their channel got suspended today.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You know,
that's a little anti-competitive, I might think.
Exactly, because Streamlabs doesn't take this fee that YouTube takes.
Right. But I don't buy this guy's story. He's well, I am just Romanian. It's okay. I go ahead, share propaganda history. This guy's definitely radicalizing and weaponizing people to the true Nazi power by sharing their propaganda. I don't buy it for a second.
He's Romanian. He's obviously a liar. Obviously. Sorry to all Romanian fans that you're liars. YouTube have banned me for hate speech. I think due to clips on Nazi policy featuring propaganda speeches by Nazi leaders. I'm devastated to have this claim leveled against me and frustrated. 15 years of materials for #history teacher community have ended so abruptly at Team YouTube. Alsop launched his original educational resource channel in 2006. He recently started a new channel specifically for archival footage, which included newsreel footage of Hitler's speeches. That's the channel that was banned Wednesday. The Clips channel ended up with about 120 videos when it was taken down, he said. The channel was replaced Wednesday afternoon with the message, "This account has been terminated due to multiple or severe violations of YouTube's policy prohibiting hate speech."
Yeah, it's kind of like the Mumkey Jones thing, how Mumkey Jones made videos about a mass murderer.
Wasn't he reading the manifesto?
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty.
He parodied it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But that was even for entertainment purposes.
He highlighted the ridiculousness of Elliot Rodger.
No, I'm not saying it's wrong.
And the cultists that kind of follow him.
I'm not saying it's wrong at all. But he was doing like entertainment parody.
Right.
This isn't even that. This is literally just history archival footage.
Right.
It's as innocent as possible in its display. There's no comedy involved. There's no anything else skewing the message. It's just, this is what happened in a period of time that we existed. Watch this so you don't repeat it.
Well, that'll teach them for teaching offensive history.
If you start taking Hitler out of the classroom, they're going to replace it with Christianity, and I'm not up for that.
If you take Hitler out of the classroom, you'll unleash him on the streets.
Yeah.
Hitler's now a high school dropout. Alone on the street selling drugs to kids.
Here's
Hitler school dropouts.
There are two big things. I mean, we don't even normally talk about YouTube that often, but because this is happening and now there's another thing happening, YouTube's just taking it from both sides. Honestly, so this is going on too.
Lawmakers attack YouTube over platform's sexualization of children. This is
when has YouTube ever sexualized children?
This is the fucked up thing. That JoJo Siwa girl, she's like 21.
Is she?
And she dresses like a 12-year-old. She knows that YouTube sexualizes kids and she makes money off of it.
I thought she was at least still a teenager.
Maybe, probably. Okay. But she dresses like a damn 11-year-old. I don't care if she's 17 or 18.
Right.
She knows that you want to be the kid here on YouTube. YouTube benefits if you're a little fresh-faced youngster. I'm going to start wearing overalls and picking my nose. They might think I'm a fat
used to wear
kid.
overalls.
And I picked my nose.
Oh, okay.
Lawmakers are demanding answers from YouTube after researchers found its recommendation algorithms suggesting videos of scantily clad children, heightening concerns about predators on the platform. Senator Richard Blumenthal Democratic from Connecticut, and Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee, sent a letter to YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki on Thursday responding to the findings detailed in a recent New York Times story. The sexualization of children through YouTube's recommendation engine represents the development of a dangerous new kind of illicit content meant to avoid law enforcement detection. Action is overdue, the senators wrote.
Yeah, I mean, okay, obviously, it is a valid concern, but what they're going to do is they're going to overcompensate for it, just like they do with everything else. And there's going to be collateral damage because of it. It's kind of like having a huge mansion and you've got like termites in one little part of it. So you just burn the whole house down to get rid of the termites. It's like that.
That would make a good YouTube video.
To be fair, termites are gross.
It's true.
Burn them all.
So are child predators.
Right. And I think Congress is just mad that they didn't think of this idea first. I mean, to be brutally honest, the amount of pedophiles in Congress has to be off the charts. Has to be.
That's how YouTube should counteract.
That's our primary First Amendment right? Like we get to call our Congress people pedophiles all the time.
I believe so.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedophiles. That's what we should. Well, that's what I'll call them.
Senator Josh Hawley, Republican from Missouri, another outspoken tech critic, said earlier on Thursday that he would introduce legislation requiring sites like YouTube to leave videos of children out of its recommendation engine. Every parent in America should be appalled that YouTube is pushing videos of their children to pedophiles, Hawley said in a statement. It's equally outrageous that YouTube refuses to take the most effective step necessary to fix the issue.
If you put any photos or videos of your children out in public, there's a chance pedophiles are going to look at them. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, this one's a little bit interesting to me. First of all, you can't be older than be called an outspoken tech critic. Like that is that's the oldest possible title you can have. But I do think it's interesting because YouTube has an entire separate app called YouTube Kids. Mm-hmm. And YouTube Kids has a specifically developed algorithm because you can't just put your content on YouTube Kids. You have to like try and guess how to get it on there. And a lot of it does have kid creators doing stuff that is overtly non-sexual, like playing Minecraft or Roblox or opening toys. That's distinctly different from like 12-year-old Russian stripper cam that they're talking about. And conflating these two is really is disingenuous, I think, from one perspective. Also, I find it I love how congressmen speak because it's like they're pushing this content to pedophiles. It's like, yes, YouTube got the pedophile list of IP addresses and they're actually directing content straight for them.
The algorithm doesn't care about age. The algorithm just wants to give you what you want to see.
More of what you like,
yeah. It's trying to give you exactly what you want. So, like the pedophiles, they get the algorithm. And the algorithm's like, here you go, have some Russian strippers. That's what's on YouTube now. That's like you just said, 12-year-old Russian strippers. Is that really something that exists?
It's this was a complaint about the videos back when this was, Congress is behind on this.
Yeah.
But back when they were hitting this earlier and Disney pulled ads, there were fully clothed children, oftentimes Eastern European children, they're clothed but clothed a little bit risque, not too bad, but they were like dancing luridly, right? Like that'd be the whole video is like this is an underage girl dancing in a sexually suggestive manner, even though she's not specifically naked. And that was
and YouTube hasn't done anything to fix that. Like they're just like, whatever, it's Russia, let them drink vodka. Or did they actually fix that?
That was the thing where they took down all the comments on a bunch of videos and channels because they would do those videos and then people in the comments, this is all what I'm surmising from the coverage at the time, the people in the comments would use those videos as a platform to advertise like links to child pornography or various image boards where you could get access to that stuff. And so that's why YouTube disabled comments on a bunch of channels with children involved.
Yeah.
That's actually what our video that was taken down recently, they did the disable the comment thing first. They put a sensitive content warning on it and disable the contents, and then they just nuked it.
All over some kids in Sandy Hook that don't even exist.
Oh
That's so messed up.
Stop.
It's a joke, guys.
They didn't care. They don't care if it's a fucking joke.
Well, I'll die on the cross for comedy. I'll take you down with me.
Do it do it on your channel. Yeah.
Jennifer, or the report comes a few months after multiple journalists have found that pedophiles were communicating with each other in the comments section of many videos, prompting YouTube to disable comments from videos featuring children. A YouTube spokesman did not immediately respond when asked for comment. Jennifer O'Connor, the company's head of trust and safety, told The Times that the company is working to make the platform safer, saying, when it comes to kids, we just want to take a much more conservative stance for what we recommend. Protecting kids is at the top of our list, she said. Asked to respond to the senator's letter on Thursday, a YouTube spokeswoman pointed to a blog post the company had published after the Times story that outlined steps it has taken to protect children. But Blumenthal and Blackburn want more information on how YouTube is responding to the misuse of its platform and details on who is leading the effort. Disneyland, right, is misused by pedophiles. Pedophiles can buy a ticket. They can buy a ticket, go into Disneyland and look at kids all fucking day, right? Every platform that has access to kids is misused by pedophiles. So holding YouTube up to some higher degree than you would hold Disneyland is kind of ridiculous. They're working on this to fix this problem. It's obviously a problem. They're saying they're going to fix it. My problem with the senators is they're outdated when it comes to technology. They don't know shit until it's like 10 years too late.
I think a lot of these problems are exaggerated by the media and the government. I'm sure.
Well, when you say the word algorithm to a congressman, they think it's actually just a musical production of An Inconvenient Truth.
Yeah.
Doop-a-doop.
Al Gore's rhythm.
Doop-a-doop.
Yeah. Well, he invented the internet.
Yeah, he also...
It's getting hot. Really hot.
It's getting hot in here.
So, one thing I wanted to ask you about is the whole DMCA thing. I've seen it as long as I've been on this platform. If someone makes a video that someone else doesn't like, they can have it taken down at least for 48 hours, usually longer.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's no repercussions for it. I mean, no one's ever held accountable that I'm aware of. I mean, was there the H3H3 lawsuit? I guess maybe that's the only time that's happened.
There was that one. There was also a Universal Music Group lawsuit where, and this is a really important case for people to remember because it impacts how the DMCA works. Now, of course, the trash part of the DMCA is they do the takedown first, and then you get to appeal it, and that process can take 14 business days, which is 20 real days or whatever.
Yeah.
So that sucks. However, Universal Music Group did that to some lady who like filmed her kid dancing. Her little toddler was dancing and a Prince song was playing in the background really faintly. And UMG took it down for a copyright claim when it was clearly fair use. And I think the Electronic Frontier Foundation supported her pro bono and represented her in the case all the way through the appeal. They ended up winning this decision, which is great. And it says that if you file a DMCA claim in the Ninth Circuit, which any YouTube stuff is going to be in the Ninth Circuit, then you actually can be countersued for damages if they can show that you didn't do at least a good faith fair use analysis. So they're really coming after these big companies that go after you for like 10 seconds of a song or whatever. Which that's the only copyright strike I've ever gotten is I had 10 seconds of In the Arms of the Angel by Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah, someone had created a meme for this guy's chair, and it was Sarah McLachlan doing a charity for the chair.
Yeah.
They tagged me for like 10 seconds of that, and it's like, first of all, that's not even hers at that point. I was actually taking the thing from the guy who created the other content, and that was fair use. So I sent a profanity-laden counterclaim daring them because I said I would go after them and win attorney's fees or whatever. But and they didn't end up pursuing it. But yeah, there is a way to go after it. But the problem in all this is you're talking about close to a 6-figure lawsuit.
Yeah.
To pursue it. So unless you're like a Crowder or someone who's making just an intense amount of money on YouTube, it's not worth it.
Could you class action something like that if you got everybody involved that's been UMG'd on some bullshit?
If it was all the same person doing the DMCA, like everybody mundane Matt went after or whatever, that might work. But you'd need probably 30 to 50 people with a similar set of facts against the same person. That'd be hard to do because everybody's videos are going to be different. So I could see a weird thing where actually if because one thing that happens, Mumkey did this, right? When Mumkey's channel got taken down for his video, a bunch of other creators uploaded Mumkey's specific video to prove that it was against him rather than against the video itself. And so he got several people to re-upload it. And just recently, a guy in the anime community that I've been part of lately, Hirohei, he had posted a video and Anime News Network did a DMCA on it. So a bunch of other creators reposted the same content or were going to. Now, if they took down everyone, then that's the same video and it'd be the same fair use analysis. Then you'd have a class. That would be much more likely. But, you guys do a video and I do a video, even if we're covering the same subject, our videos are wildly different scenarios and would need an individual fact analysis. It would make a class action really difficult.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, there's such a wide variety of circumstances when it comes to this. Yeah, I mean, anytime I see something like this happen, I see a bunch of people in the chat saying, that you should sue them. And it's like, do you understand the amount of money? First of all, you have to, if you're suing someone for a certain amount of money, they have to have that much money to begin with for you to get it.
Right.
And attorney fees are going to eat some of that away. So you have to make sure that you're not going to end up spending more in attorney fees than you would win in a case like that. And I would say probably a fair use case is something that would get wrapped up in court for over a year, possibly, right?
Yeah, it's very fact intensive. You're not going to just win it on summary judgment. The judge has to go through this giant list of fair use questions to determine whether or not it's fair use. There is no, like, if you try and say, what is fair use? And you look for any article on it, there's no comprehensive article that'll say, if you do this and this and this, you're safe. There's none. And it's intentionally so. It's all very fact specific. So you're looking at certainly 6 months if you're lucky. But if you're going to trial, you're talking at least a year. You're talking $70,000 or more in legal fees because it's a federal case. It's an astronomical amount of money. And yeah, does the other person have the money to pay you when you win? Probably not, because they just spent $70,000 on their attorney too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed you did cover the ridiculousness of the LOL suit as well, which
Right.
I enjoyed a lot. We had Maddox on this show, and when he came on, he gave us this long list of words he wanted banned from our chat.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, and people found out because their Streamlabs and Super Chats weren't going through. So I ended up refunding a bunch of money for things that didn't go through. And then I believe the day after that is when he actually dropped the actual law. Not dropped it, but he pursued the lawsuit. The $20 million lawsuit or whatever it was.
So somewhere between 20 and 380. We don't actually know. It was so poorly drafted. That was the weirdest. I can still say with confidence that is the dumbest written document I've seen in regards to legal work.
Really?
And Maddox was apparently referred to Kevin Landau, and whoever did that to him absolutely must have hated Maddox. That was the meanest thing they could have done. That guy was terrible. I mean, terrible at his job.
Couldn't you get disbarred for doing such a terrible job?
It's really hard to get disbarred because the person who would disbar you is another attorney. Okay. So if you're not banging your client, if you're not stealing your client's money, and if you're not, that's about it.
Okay. You can't bang your clients?
No.
Only if you were previously having sex with them before they became your client can then you can keep doing it.
Okay.
But if you, because one of the things to worry about is that let's say Billy, you hire me, and you suddenly owe me $50,000 in legal fees, and I'm like, well, your mouth is really nice. So, maybe I can hold off on the interest on this $50,000 if we have it right. The coercive power of an attorney, or especially during an ongoing case where, look, I'm your only hope. And if I start screwing up, or if I miss a deadline by accident, that's going to really impact you, and it's not going to impact me that much. Looks like you better give up the booty hole.
Yeah.
That type of stuff is just, there's too much risk.
I have a question about that. If like you're the lawyer and she was giving you blowjobs before she was your client, but then she became your client, could you go on to like full on vaginal sex, or
probably?
Okay.
Unless she was like a prostitute. As long as it was illegal, if it was a legal consensual encounter, it's probably fine.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
Any lawyers out there who are currently getting consistent blowjobs from someone who asks to then become a client, I would recommend against banging them in the future until the case is done. But no, you could argue that you had a pre-existing consensual relationship, and as long as that relationship was good, they could testify, no, we'd actually had a pre-existing thing. The risk you run is that relationship goes south. Because people hate you during a lawsuit, even your own clients at times. Even when things end up working out well, in the middle, they may really hate you as they're paying you a bunch of money, as a motion doesn't go your way or whatever. So you really run the risk of that person screwing you over. So I'd stick away from it personally.
As a lawyer, like, is dating harder? Like, do you have to keep this stuff in mind?
We're going there. Okay.
I'm just wondering. Like, is it always in your mind? Like,
I don't know. I've been married since long before I was a lawyer. Yeah. I've been married since 2005. Yeah, 2005. So we're coming up on 14 years this year. So and I've been a lawyer for about, let's see, I was admitted to the bar, I think, 4 years ago. So I couldn't tell you what dating is like. I would hate to do it because you just hate everybody automatically and don't trust them.
Yeah.
So yes, it's wildly difficult to date.
Hypothetical situation. You're like with this girl and there's some heavy petting, maybe some makeout, maybe like one hand job type of situation. And then it comes up like she's accused of murder. Do you represent her, or do you just push her off to like a colleague you know?
I'd push her off to a colleague I know.
Okay. That's a smart move. Push her onto somebody and then still pursue like maybe like a murder bang a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you push her off to someone who's gonna lose, and then you get the conjugal visits with no obligation for the rest of your life. It's perfect.
I like it.
Which type of law did you specialize in, or which type of law do you practice?
I do criminal law in a small town, so it's a lot of like disorderly conduct, theft, a little bit of. I don't do much traffic, but a little bit of DUI and violent threats type stuff. It's pretty simple, really.
Yeah.
We don't. There are bigger firms which get the sexual assault cases. Thank God, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I mostly do criminal law in actual court. Outside of court, I do stuff like business entity formation, contract drafting and review, consulting on various business questions or the legality of employment process and stuff like that. So if you got to fire an employee, or if you have to write a contract for someone, or if you've got a rental agreement that's going south, I do all that crap too. Landlord tenant. But I'm in a really, the town I work out of is about 15,000 people.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to be pretty diverse in what you'll take. I don't do family law because I hate it. But outside of that, I'll entertain most things.
Yeah, I can imagine in a small town the sort of things you run into aren't too extreme.
Drug busts and meth busts.
Yeah.
Well, but
I have one smudge on my criminal record, and it is a disorderly conduct. But it's because I got caught with a marijuana pipe in my car while I was driving. They were going to give me a paraphernalia charge, which I guess in Ohio is actually worse than possession. And yeah, and you lose your driver's license too for 9 months when you get a drug offense there. So yeah,
that's logic related to a drug offense, is that you can't have a driver's license.
Yeah, yeah, you know. I mean, like, I would understand if I was high when they pulled me over, but I didn't get a DUI or anything like that. They smelled weed in my car. They were going to search it anyway. They found the pipe, and but I got it downgraded from possession of paraphernalia to disorderly conduct. That allowed me to keep my driver's license, but I still had to like do all this other stuff as like part of a plea deal.
If you're going to be driving with a pipe in Ohio, you should keister it.
No.
Yeah. Just put it up in your prison pocket. You'll be fine. They're never going to check your butt for weed.
Did you, do you think they could actually smell it? I mean, did your car smell?
I think it probably...
Or did you smell?
It probably did smell, honestly.
Okay.
But yeah, they can lie about that. There's no way to prove they can or can't smell it, and they use that for probable cause all the time.
Weed smells like BO a lot too, though, right? You ever had that dank weed that just smelled like body odor?
It smells like a skunk to me.
But I've had body odor that was very weedish.
You don't even smoke weed.
Yeah, but I've had body odor that was weed adjacent. I've had that stank, that dank stank.
Weed adjacent.
Yeah, I've had a weed adjacent body odor.
I've had weed out here that smells like orange peels and that kind of stuff. It's really weird.
What did you? Oh, sorry. Do you? It's legal where you are, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So do you or anybody you know do the oils, the hash oil and stuff?
Yeah.
Does that stuff smell when it's like just in the vial?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about when it's sealed up though?
It's harder to smell. A dog could probably smell it.
Also, the oil is very messy, so it probably does drip a little bit in bottling, and they don't really care.
What I love, which are really hard to like detect. Do I have? Oh yeah, right here. These are like a line of capsules that you can take.
Oh sure.
I take these to sleep. Oh man, they're so great. They have THC and CBD in them.
You know the Kyle, the FPS Russia guy from Painkiller Already or whatever. Mm-hmm. He got tagged because the postal inspector suggested that they smelled a strong odor of marijuana emanating from the postage box with his name on it, and it had little enclosed sealed vials of oil, and I don't believe that for a moment.
Yeah, that's probably pretty difficult to smell.
Right. And they didn't suggest a dog smelled it. A person smelled a strong odor of marijuana emanating from this box randomly that just happened to have Kyle. I forget his last name, but Kyle's name on it. I don't buy that for a second. I think they were looking through his packages. I had a client where the cop said he could smell weed coming from a burning plastic bag full of garbage. And I wish I could show you the pictures, because like there's the smoldering bag of garbage, and then the entire earth in the area is also on fire. Like, because it's a 115-year-old house, and it's surrounded by trees. The trees are on fire. The ground is on fire. The house is in rubble on the ground and just cooking. The whole earth is yellow. And this guy's like, "No, I smell weed coming out of this pile." And I'm like, "That's got like aluminum and plastic in it." And then when they open it up, all the weed is still green. I'm like, "No, you didn't. You don't even have burnt marijuana in here. Right. You just have burnt everything else." It was nuts. I don't buy that. The cop sat on the stand and testified that he smelled marijuana coming out of it. And I was like, "You lying sack of shit. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. If he was just burning it in a field by itself, sure.
Right.
No way. But what do you do? We ended up winning. Well, we settled that case favorably anyway.
You know, and what are they going to do once it's federally legalized? All these excuses they use to search people. because of weed
I
are
don't
going to be
know.
gone.
Yeah, that needs to happen ASAP. Although I'll say, I had a different client who got arrested for CBD hemp oil, not THC CBD oil.
yeah.
Like
Right.
your stuff had this in Minnesota. It's legal to have the CBD oil, but not with any THC content. It has to be less than like a 0.3% concentration. And this guy, my client had bought this stuff at the store. Well, they just flat out arrested him, took all their guns, and said, you can't have guns if you have weed. And I was like, but it's not weed, though. And then we went to court, and I get to the judge, and I said, but judge, this is legal. Like, we can go buy this at the store right now. You and I just take off the robe. Let's go. And he looks at the state's attorney, and he says, what's the state's response to this? And she says, we're not sure because it could potentially be illegal. Whereas my response is, judge, so could a gallon of milk. They didn't check the milk in the house to see if that was illegal. Like, how do you know if there's THC in milk or in a pickle jar or anything else? There's no reason that this legal substance would potentially have THC in it. And the best part is they hadn't tested it yet. They allegedly did a field test, but the cop who wrote the report on the field test wrote it 6 months after the arrest. And when he wrote it, he wrote down the wrong number of the field test, right? Mm-hmm. So there's, when you're field testing for narcotics, you have these little pouches. They're created by a company that you can't buy from unless you're law enforcement. And it's a pouch of chemicals. And each number pouch detects a certain chemical. So for meth, you've got a pouch number 14, for example. For weed, it would be 9. For cocaine, it'd be 26. He wrote down the number for detecting something that was not marijuana. And then, but the interesting thing was its neutral reaction looked like the same color as the marijuana reaction. So here I am at the, like, reading this report. I'm like, he used the wrong test. He used the wrong test. And the state's argument was, well, he must have typoed it. I'm like, this is an expert. This guy does this every day. He's a drug task force guy. You're telling me he mistyped it? We won that case. It went very well for us. But yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. But in our state, when you have a legal substance, they just arrest you anyway. My clients had to pay 6 months of mandatory drug testing.
Oh my god!
And they had attorney's fees and all that stuff too. Even though we won, I got to get paid. Screw them.
What about is Kratom illegal there?
It's currently legal in Minnesota, although there's a big push. There's a big push all over to make Kratom illegal, right? It's it's weird. And
right. It replaces pharmaceuticals that do the same thing, and that's why they want it illegal.
Right. Yeah. You can't have people deciding to feel a particular way on their own. They have to go through the industry to do it. They have to pay a doctor. They have to pay for health insurance, and they have to pay just an absolute shitload of money for their prescription every month. Otherwise, no, we can't have that.
So, are you? Did you grow up in Minnesota?
I lived in. Actually, I was born in Houston, Texas. I lived there till I was 10. And then we moved up to a suburb of Minneapolis, and I graduated high school there, and then I went to college in rural Minnesota. After college, I lived back in the Twin Cities for 5-6 years, something like that, and then we moved back out to a different part of rural Minnesota where we are now. So I don't know what it always depends on where you define growing up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I would say if you spent most of your more informative years somewhere, you grew up there. So it sounds like, you have most of your early life experience in Minnesota. Did you like Jesse Ventura as your governor? I liked the comedy of it.
Yeah. Yeah. But as far as him as governor, I'm pretty indifferent. In a weird way, how different we are when we're young. As a senior in high school, do you remember when all the cigarette companies got sued?
Yes.
There was all the states sued them, and then 4 states sued them individually. Minnesota was one of those 4, and they won a huge settlement from Philip Morris and whoever the other one is. And so then they had a portion of that money was actually to go to a advertising campaign, and the national settlement was the same. The national settlement had the Truth Project, and Minnesota had something that was different, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. But I actually, as a senior in high school, I was on like the board of teenage voices that were like in support of this thing, and I hate it so much now when I look back, because I'm like, wait a minute, here I was like trying to censor speech and pushing this weird stuff about cigarettes, which I'm not a big fan of cigarettes, but at the same time, like they were, it was this big push to get cigarettes out of restaurants and stuff at the time. And now I'm like, no, let the restaurants decide, because I'm such a freaking libertarian. Yeah. But Jesse Ventura spoke at the event, the initial kickoff event. And a kid asked him a question. He's like, hey, Mr. Ventura, I hear you like Cuban cigars and you have Cuban cigars. Aren't those contraband in the United States? Because this was before we had, figured that out with Cuba a couple years ago.
Right.
And his response to this kid, and he's standing in front of like 600 teenagers, and he says, aren't things a little more exciting when they're not the right thing to do?
I like that.
Jesse. Yeah, it was weird. I was the year he got elected, I turned 18 the month, the next month. My birthday's in December. I would have definitely voted for Jesse Ventura for the lulz, but I wasn't 18 yet. So, but as far as like his performance as governor, I'm fairly indifferent. I don't care.
He wasn't even really. He wasn't even really around that long. He kind of bowed out instead of trying to, go as long as he could. So
yeah. He was a one-term governor. He had some interesting plan with a binder. I definitely remember the binder. That was his plan on how to fix Minnesota. And
you do it really well.
Well, we can go ahead and fix it, or you can fix it. The Ventura thing. He was a one-term senator, or one-term governor. He had some decent ideas, but I don't have anything bad to say about him. I know some people do, but it was weird. It was this weird experiment with independent parties in Minnesota. It didn't last very long.
Yeah, he was part of Perot's party. The Reform Party. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool because I like Jesse Ventura, and I've been a wrestling fan since I was a kid, so I like that side of him too. Like he was like.
Did you watch his conspiracy theory show?
A little bit of it. He because of who's that guy? Chris Kyle. Chris Kyle wrote a total bullshit story about him, and that's why he lost that job. On that show and everything. But yeah, I watched it. I didn't believe most of the stuff on there, but it was amusing for entertainment.
I love the one he went to. There's a government installation up in Alaska that he went to, and he goes up and he goes to the front gate and he's like, "Hello, can we come in?" Like, no. Do you know who I am? I'm the former governor of Minnesota. You're the former governor of Minnesota? Yes. Are you governor now? No. You can come back on like Tuesday with your guided tours. And he's like, so you're not going to let me in right now? No. See. He turns to the camera. He's like, see, they're not going to let us in.
If he was the current governor, does that give him any jurisdiction in Alaska to be let in?
No, I don't think so. Unless it was like unless there's like a Minnesota Guard unit station defending it.
He should have been like, I'm the guy from Predator.
Yeah.
Or something instead.
I'm one of the governors from Predator.
Yeah, there's two of them. Good point.
Carl Weathers needs to run.
Oh goodness. Yeah, Jesse did it way before Arnold. Arnold was just sloppy seconds on governor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse was kind of the first. After Reagan had done it, he was like the first celebrity in my lifetime to get into politics at that level that I can remember.
And then Kane.
What was that?
Kane ran for
Oh
mayor.
yeah, that's another wrestler. He's the mayor
Okay,
of
yeah,
Knox County. Yeah, that was a pretty good meme.
Didn't he get thrown off the Hell in a Cell by the Undertaker or
He
whatever?
didn't. Mankind did.
Yeah,
But later that night, Kane won the WWF World Championship in a first blood match against Stone Cold Steve Austin.
It was 1998.
I don't believe it for a second. Stone Cold never lost.
Well, no, but that was the thing. Like Kane's entire body was covered, so there's like no way he was gonna bleed. Stone Cold was wearing black tights, and Kane had a freaking full bodysuit and mask.
That was red.
That was red. So even if he did bleed, you wouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah.
So it was set up against Stone Cold by the evil Vincent K. McMahon.
Yeah.
I saw. This is what I like about wrestling. This had to be like 98 or 99.
Yeah.
Stone Cold offered a beer to like McMahon's daughter or whatever, Elizabeth.
Stephanie.
And Stephanie, yeah, and she wouldn't take it. And so he just shakes it up and sprays it all over and calls her a bunch of derogatory names. I was like, I love this.
Oh man,
This is what we need more of.
Wrestling in the late 90s, early 2000s was like, I mean, violence against women, even elderly women, was normal.
We should crowdsource a wrestling federation today that does the exact same storylines that WWE did back then, except they'll get called out for toxic masculinity. It'll be the perfect SJW wrestling, social justice wrestling.
It was also before the Super Bowl nipple incident, so they didn't have that 15-second auto delay on live productions. So if you watched the WWF lingerie things, as like a 17-year-old, you caught those live.
Yeah, I remember those.
Every once in a while, you'd catch a Foley. It'd just pop right out.
Yeah.
I remember they had I'm going to say this horribly because I don't remember the chicks' names, but there was a completely interracial match, and the black chick's bra just flat came off.
Jacqueline.
Like, the entire time.
Yeah.
It was great. That was a wonderful night for me.
As a young boy.
There was a woman wrestler named Mae Young. She was a wrestler like back in the 50s, but she was involved in wrestling all the way until like the end of her life. And when she was probably in her early 80s, oh man, it's all messed up. I was going to show the GIF of it. Here, I'll put it on the screen and blow it up. She got like power bombed through a table from the top rope.
I thought you were going to talk about when they pulled her titties out.
Oh no, they did that?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, no.
I guess they were prosthetic because they made them all hanging and gross. So like it looked like the scene from Something About Mary when the old lady's tits popped out, but it was live in the middle of the ring, and they were saying like this episode was TV mature, and they were like guaranteeing boobs, and then it was her fucking decrepit sweater puppies. It was so gross.
She looks like in this GIF right here, she looks so much like my grandma, like a red sweatshirt and like the old lady blonde hair and shit.
That's weird because
this reminds me specifically of the last time I saw my grandmother.
you powerbombed her through a table,
through a casket. It was her time. Euthanasia's okay if it's in a wrestling ring.
This is how we should do euthanasia.
Yeah,
it's like, look, if you're gonna do it, have the balls to do it.
Oh, fuck yeah, like an arena full of people cheering you on to your death, and then some big jumbo muscular motherfucker power bombs you into a pit of like fucking syringes covered in AIDS, so you're guaranteed a mega death. Oh yeah, fuck yeah, I want this in my life. Damn it, I want this now. Let's legalize euthanasia and just have the most fucked up amazing deaths.
What was that? That was on Monty Python's Meaning of Life, right? When you got the death penalty on that, the guy got to choose the method of his own execution. And he's like in a business suit with a briefcase, and he's just booking it and being chased by a bunch of topless women.
Yeah.
Until he falls off a cliff and lands in the grave. God.
What would be like the most sensational death you could think of? Like just crazy death.
Oh, God.
No. Like jumping out of an airplane without a parachute or something like that.
It's anticlimactic. Like, you know the end, right? You're going to see all that dropping. You know the end.
Yeah, but you see, there's actually a hidden parachute under the shirt. Pulls it at the last second and lands in an alligator's mouth, and then that gets eaten by a shark.
Yes.
Like You gotta have the twist at the end, the full drama. Like this character is developed. First, he's a jackass idiot for jumping out of an airplane without a chute. Then you're like, wait, no, he's actually learned from his mistakes and he pulls the chute out at the last second. And then, oh no, he's in Florida, alligator, he's done. And then someone comes and eats the alligator's face and rapes it because it's Florida.
That's entertaining. I would watch that. I think mine would be got a whole bunch of like big boobed models with squirt guns full of honey. And they just spray me down with their super soakers full of honey, and then they unleash a declawed, toothless grizzly bear to just maul me, my honey-covered body.
How is this normal from your regular day, or how is this different from your normal days?
I would just watch that. That's all.
No.
I would watch that. That's how I'd want to go if it was like just brutal, and I wanted to get the most views. I think that would be something like that.
What if they actually brought out one of those chicks with the can-crushing breasts, and
that's my homie.
Yeah, what if she actually just beat someone to death?
Yeah, give me that. I'm gonna call her up right now.
She's in one of your music videos.
Yeah.
She like destroys a watermelon with her boob.
She pulled me up on stage with her to crush a watermelon with her titty, and then I headbutted one. It was cute.
Huh.
A watermelon or a titty? That you
no comment. No comment.
That's great. This is great. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like your boy Onision might get sued, though.
Probably not.
You don't think so?
Nah.
Oh. Yeah.
My art guy was asking me if I wanted to cover that, and so I gotta look into it. Onision is doing a bunch of different DMCAs, right?
Yes.
Is that the story?
Yes.
On the same guy?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we know both of them. They've both been here in this studio with us on this show. Not together. They've never met each other, but they've had a feud that goes back about a decade now. And at one time, Onision was kind of really successful and popular. Mm-hmm. And now it's more popular to hate on him than it is to be a fan of his. So people who take his content and goof on it get more views than he does with his own content. So he's not so happy about that. And Repsion is kind of in the forefront of this. You know, Onision will put up a video and get maybe 2,000-3,000 views on it. Repsion takes that same video, goofs on it, and gets, 200,000, 300,000-400,000. So
God, that's got to sting.
Yeah. So that's why Greg Onision is DMCAing these videos.
I don't think he's DMCAing. All right. I talked to him.
Oh, so hey, I'd like to introduce you to Onision's lawyer, Nick.
Well, yeah.
Billy the Fridge.
Well, I mean, okay, you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to give any more information. Fuck it. Talk about what you want to talk about.
He's getting mad.
No, I'm not mad. I was going to give you some fucking information, but you're going to say some other shit because you're saying DMCA, and I'm like, I don't think it's DMCA.
Then? What is it then?
Okay, so he's got the auto claim when his content's used. The service he uses. The service he uses asks him if that's his content.
What's the name of the service?
I don't know the service.
Okay.
It's one of those automatic things.
Like CD Baby type stuff?
It's probably something like that.
Oh, wait, it's that one? It's not the YouTube one that they do for, like, the music creators.
I don't think it's for music. I don't know. It might be. I don't know what the platform is, but he tells me that he gets these messages, and then he looks and sees if his videos are in there, and he just accepts that, yeah, that's my video, so he claims it. And the reason the videos are being taken down is because Repsion is counterclaiming that he's using everything fair use. And when he counterclaims, the videos are taken down. Because if you even look at the screen cap that Repsion posted of the DMCA, the initial thing says this video is being monetized, or the person claiming this video is going to get monetization for this video. In the screen cap he put up,
it works that way.
Well, in the screen cap he put up, it says this video is getting the monetization for this video is going to the person who claimed it. And then Repsion's saying it was taken down, and it's taken down because he's counterclaiming. And so the counterclaim's taking it down until it...
I don't think counterclaims take videos down.
I mean, that's just what I'm saying.
Content ID. Content ID is the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, I think it's Content ID.
That's a YouTube one where if you have like 15, 20 seconds of music or whatever from a popular artist or a production label, they have an algorithm that detects that. That's when they're processing your live streams and everything. So Content ID will identify it and then it'll send it out. But I don't the one hole in your story is that from personal experience, when you counterclaim a content ID claim, they don't take down the video.
Right.
Automatically.
Right.
Now,
happen.
Yeah,
Xeon could be doing that, so I don't know. But if it's content ID, that's different than DMCA, because that's where you just split the ad revenue and they get like 95% and you get a fist in the anus.
If you look at the actual screen cap Repsion recently used, it says in the beginning of the thing that this video is being content claimed and revenue will go to the person, but then it says the video is down. So I don't know. I could be confused.
I think so.
But you don't know what the fuck's going on either.
I know a lot about how this shit on YouTube works, and what you're saying I have never seen.
Okay, that means it must not exist. Let's all go pray to God.
That sounds like a straw man.
No, fuck no. It sounds like a high man.
I got a question. Yeah. Well, if it sounds like a hymen, we need to break it. I got one question, because I have no idea why do I hear that so many people hate Onision?
Oh,
like,
man.
What's
the fall from grace?
Well, first of all, he rose to the top of YouTube at a time when drama was the way to get attention. Drama did not hinder you like it does now. So it was any press is good press. So people that hated him only helped him to get more popular.
Right.
So there's so many crazy scandals over the years. There's, allegations of him romancing women that were underage.
Allegations.
Didn't I say allegations?
Just reiterating.
Do you care to cross-examine, counsel?
Yeah.
Are you asking me? No, I'm good just listening to the story for now.
I'm asking him because anytime Onision comes up, he becomes his attorney. He's like, yeah, I just want to make sure that, allegedly.
Just double check it. Dot in the eyes.
Okay.
He probably doesn't want a content ID strike against your show.
Exactly. We're on the whitelist for now. You keep talking shit, we'll get pulled off.
Okay. So
is the whitelist better than other lists? This is a trick question to get you deplatformed. Don't answer it.
Shit.
But yeah, I guess there's rumors he flew to other states because the age of consent were lower in those states. I don't know if that's true, but there are things that we do.
There's
know.
a ton of rumors and there's a ton of people talking about things. The real fact here is that Greg Onision has a holier than thou attitude, and you want to hate that guy. If you don't love him, you want to fucking hate him with a passion.
Yeah, I mean, he's 34, something like that.
33.
He dresses like an emo kid from 2003.
Yeah.
He wears like mascara and stuff. He tries to look as young as possible. It's interesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had this website where he would ask girls to send in pictures of them like in their bikinis and stuff, and like write his name on them.
He was making videos where he rated people's bodies, and he requested 18 and over people. And then somebody got through that wasn't even wearing a bikini. They were wearing like a hoodie, but they were like 14 or 15, and it got through, and it made it to one of his videos. And he was just like, talked on her and then multiple other people. It was probably a bad idea for content in general, but it was what he was making at the time. And people are like, he's rating 14-year-old girls' bodies.
Also, he shamed the hell out of a girl that clearly had a horrible case of anorexia. And now that she's getting therapy and getting better, he's trying to act like he's been supporting her this entire time.
Is that Eugenia whatever?
Cooney, yeah, Eugenia Cooney.
Yeah, I remember that happening.
Right.
I'm glad she got the help she needed.
Yeah, I think everybody is.
He used everybody. He basically used her as clickbait to make videos goofing on how skinny and weird she looked.
He made 3 goof videos and dozens of videos trying to get her help. He's a sweet boy.
Fuck you, dude. Okay, so now we'll listen to Billy defend Martin Shkreli. Well, let's hear Martin. He's
my boy.
He's friends with Martin Shkreli too.
Are you really? Man,
Yeah.
I would love to meet that guy.
He's kind
You
of
got a little bit of time.
He's
to
in
wait on that
Pennsylvania
one.
right now. I don't know how soon he'll be out, but yeah, he's a really open dude when it comes to talking with people online. If he was out right now, he'd probably be on the show. He'd probably be on with you right now.
Can he use his contraband cell phone that he clearly has?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. You know how easy it is to get a cell phone in prison? You know how easy it is?
You know how easy it is to get extra time for having a cell
if
phone
you
in
get
prison?
caught,
He got caught.
I don't know.
It was on the news that he got caught with a cell phone.
Could have been a setup.
He was just trying to get back that Wu-Tang album.
For real. They came up on that boy's Wu-Tang album. I guess the
I
album
hate
sucks.
that they took his Wu-Tang album.
Yeah.
I think that's lame.
He did the world a favor by buying that Wu-Tang album because nobody had to hear it. It was a terrible album. It was pieced together. Like, if you look at the story of the album, it was like some guy that bought a bunch of verses from the Wu-Tang Clan and spent a ton of money and then realized that he'd kind of wasted his money on Wu-Tang Clan verses. And so he like hired RZA to put out an album with it. And they didn't know what to do with the album. They couldn't like distribute it regularly. So like, let's just sell it to like one person for $1 million. And then Shkreli bid $2 million. It's a really weird story.
Yeah, that's it was. I love that they did that in a weird way. It's like, here's our unique experience, and then of course a bunch of chumps got together and tried. We'll buy it for the community and we'll put it up in a mobile exhibit. It's like, oh my god, put a mobile exhibit of you and an Iron Maiden or whatever. But no, Shkreli bought it. He was releasing the songs by playing them on live streams too, which was even funnier. Yeah, because he like when you bought that album, you bought like the rights to it as well.
It's weird. He couldn't massively sell it though. He didn't have the rights to sell it. Like, he couldn't just like resell it. There's a whole lot of limitations on what he could do with it.
Were you part of those streams?
The streams where he's playing the music?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because I thought you were in those.
Yeah. I was helping him. I was giving him ideas on how to hit back the Ghostface when Ghostface was coming at him.
What happened to your buddy Alki? Any news on him? Is he going to jail or what?
I think he's released right now. So
because he made bail, right?
He's on bail. Did you hear the story about the billionaire that got caught with like 5,000 pot plants? He was flying in from, I think, Jamaica with 5,000 weed plants.
Yeah.
But he says they're all CBD. He runs a CBD company here.
I think it's still illegal to bring
Beverly Hills.
across the border.
I don't know.
I mean, why do you need to go to another country to get CBD? It's already being produced in California.
He might have just had a good deal on some Jamaican strain and wanted to
He
bring
could
it
have
back.
brought one or two plants and started growing the strain in the U.S. He didn't have to fill a plane full of
But
it.
if it was CBD, he wasn't really doing anything illegal, supposedly. They were saying that it's not CBD, that it was full marijuana. And that's why he got
I think it's
up.
illegal to bring either one over the border.
What you think and what I think doesn't matter because we're going to see what happens in court, right?
Okay.
Oh, look at that gauntlet throw right there. I like that.
He's a billionaire. He's going to get slap on the hand anyways.
You think and I think doesn't even matter. We'll see you in court, you piece of shit. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, his buddy, who's a billionaire, got caught with a private plane full of weed plants flying into the U.S. from Jamaica.
I just like how you bring up all my friends like they're
all
criminals.
your friends are going to prison for some reason.
One, because he threatened to pull out, or he offered $5,000 for Hillary Clinton's hair strand so he could clone her. That was, I think that's why Martin's in jail right now. They're like, dude, you can't do that. And he was like, what?
Didn't he try to send someone to Moon Obama or something like that?
That was the billionaire. The billionaire sent somebody to Moon Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Martin Shkreli put out the $5,000 bounty for a strand of Hillary's hair so he could clone her.
That's so weird.
What a brilliant God, he's so funny.
And that sent him. That was what got him put back in jail when he was on fucking probation.
Did you see Martin Shkreli did this interview before he went to prison, and it was great. And they were talking to him about why the news they had him, right? Because he bought that patent for a drug, and then he jacked the price of like 4,000% or whatever, which really means it went from $4 to like $100.
I think it was $13 to $750. It was $13.
Well, there's $4 to $100, $13 to $750.
Exactly.
We're talking pennies here.
Exactly.
Pennies for the peasants out on YouTube.
Exactly.
But anyway, so he raises the price on this drug that is covered by insurance companies all over the place. And then they're like, the news has him dead to rights. They've got him, and they're talking to him about Harambe and stuff. And he's like, well, Harambe's our Lord and Savior. And he's kind of just joking with him. And they ask him the question, they're like, why'd you raise the price on that drug? He's like, well, because I met this kid who's like 16 years old, and he has a rare condition. There's only like 8 of them running around. And major pharmaceutical companies won't make a drug that treats the condition that this kid and his twin brother have. However, I did. The problem is making that drug costs a whole bunch of money, and there's no research. There's no reward to the research because there's only like 8 people out there with this. But you know what? That kid's alive because I made this drug. And the two newscasters are just sitting there like, oh,
yeah.
And the dumb thing is, I don't even know. That might have been a complete troll story. He could have been completely fabricating those kids. I have no idea. But he brought home in this great way with one moment the reality of how stupid the pharmaceutical process is, how the incentive for mass production far outweighs the dire needs of the few people who have a really rare condition to get some sort of treatment that Pfizer would never make because it's going to cost them $700 million to bring the drug to market, and they're going to sell it to what? Maybe over the next 20 years while they have patent protection, they're going to sell it to what, 60, 70 people?
Yeah.
How are they going to recoup the money? They're going to charge them $1 million a year, and there's going to be a news story on how heartless and horrible Pfizer is. But it's like, but all of this regulatory process means that we had to pay over $500 million to bring the drug to market. And Shkreli just laid that out. Whether I don't even know if the story is true or not, but he laid it out in such a brilliant way. And it was like, damn, he nailed him on it. He's like, if the insurance company is going to pay for this drug at $13 or $7.50, I can make enough money to do an experimental drug. The problem is no one believed him on whether or not he would do the experimental drug. I think that's a shame. I think Shkreli got a little bit of a raw deal, but
he definitely
that's
he definitely got a raw deal, but he was also like, he was playing up the troll aspect of everything. When the media started targeting him, instead of trying to do damage control, he just went in like troll mode, and he just started like turning to like this wrestling heel, this bad guy, and he would play the role of the bad guy. Like, he thought it was funny, and it got his clout up pretty big to the point where he was one of the most hated men in America for some shit that, if you really look at what he was doing with the raising of the drug prices and everything, it's just business as usual in pharmaceuticals. They did an entire series on Netflix called, I think it was Greed or Dirty Money or something. I can't remember the exact name of the series. The very thumbnail image of the series is Martin Shkreli's face. And when you click in, you see all the episodes. There's one episode that features Martin Shkreli, and it's for about 2 minutes before they talk about how bad it really is in pharmaceuticals. They use them as a jump-off point for this entire series, and he has like 2 minutes of FaceTime in the entire series because he is that effective at being a topic of discussion. Even if he's not as bad as you want to believe he is.
Right. Yeah. He decided to be the villain.
Yeah.
And he was okay with it. And then they accepted his decision and ran with it until he was in prison. And the interesting thing is, a lot of these white collar trading crimes they're frustrating because while they are crimes, they happen every day by people that you see in the news and presenting the news every single day.
Martha Stewart.
Right, Martha Stewart. But also, like, do you know that Congress has actually the authority to insider trade? Right? Like, it is legal for, let's say, the who's the House Majority Leader? It was Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, man.
Then it was a Republican. Now it's a Democrat again. Doesn't matter. Let's say it's the House Majority Leader. If they're going to,
it's probably McConnell.
Send a bill. Yeah, well, McConnell's the Senate. He's the Senate Majority Leader.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Is Pelosi not back in?
Pelosi's the Speaker.
Okay.
Oh, she's a Speaker of the House. That's what I was talking about.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
My terminology was wrong. I didn't realize she was speaker again.
She
God.
is again. They put her back in. Yeah, that's why I'm not convinced that the Democratic Party has actually changed. And we're probably going to see the exact same thing. Yeah, if they're putting in the same speaker when they had a chance to put in a different one, they're putting in the same one from 10 years ago. I don't think we're going to see much of a difference from them.
They need to rebrand. Both parties definitely need a rebranding. And it's interesting when you can see it on individual members of the parties, and how they're trying to, like, oh my God, this look that is out there for either side is not good, and they're each trying to do it in their own way. But yeah, as a party, bringing Pelosi back is a bad idea. But okay, so let's say Pelosi is going to introduce a bill regulating coal prices or something like that. She can actually, and she's the one who's going to send it to a committee where she probably knows in advance whether it'll come out of that committee or if it'll die in committee, right? So she knows with relative certainty the fate of that legislation. She is legally allowed to trade stock on companies that will be directly impacted by that legislation.
Yeah,
like all throughout the process. They don't require a blind trust or anything like that. Some of them do it, but and so I'm not like particularly disparaging Pelosi, although I think her net worth skyrocketed when she went into office. Like most of these guys do, they go in with little, or maybe they're a successful business person. They have a couple million net worth, but they come out with like a $200 million net worth.
Getting into politics definitely makes you richer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not the salary of being a senator or a congressperson either. That makes you rich.
Yeah, $200,000 a year is great and all. However, that doesn't put you from 7 figures to 9.
Right.
But they don't have to pay for healthcare either, right? So
right.
That might be where the extra money's coming from.
I do. I wanted to cover a few other subjects, but I think before we move on to that, we should probably read the Streamlabs or super chats that came in.
Oh, right.
And after that, I wanted to touch on the Mercedes Carrera thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
I'm very familiar with it.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't know if we caught this one earlier. I don't remember it coming up, but just keep that in mind. Dusty's owner says, "Can Nick tell Dusty the cockatiel that he's a beautiful bird?"
I can do that.
Okay, I know we have a fan who has a pet cockatiel. It's a real bird, and for whatever reason, every guest we have, he tries to get them to say that Dusty's a beautiful bird. But I confirm that it's not some weird like fetish or anything. It is a real bird.
It's not a penis, because that would have been funny. So it's Dusty the cockatiel.
Yeah.
Hey Dusty, how you doing, girl? You are one beautiful cockatiel.
Ooh. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this guy has paid people like Al from Home Improvement to make videos talking about Dusty the cockatiel. It's interesting.
He might be one of the most beloved cockatiels in existence.
Probably.
He's up there. He's up there. Ink Penification says, "If you like Nick as a guest, pay $5 for Nick's Patreon or New Project 2 for the best Discord on the planet." Also, shout out to Keck for best mod.
Oh, yeah, and by the way, the reason why Streamlabs aren't showing on the screen tonight is because of YouTube.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah. Yeah,
This is banning?
Yeah. Yeah, this is part of why it's not working.
Oh, YouTube, stop.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, they need to quit it.
I'm thinking, you know what I should probably do? I'm wondering if I sign out and sign into the Twitch part of it, if it'll work instead.
Huh.
Maybe that'll work.
That's strange.
I just signed in through Twitch. I wonder if, I guess we'll have to see if one comes in. Yeah, okay. I think it's going to work now. I totally spaced on that. I think they're going to display, but yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead and read them.
Spirit Flame says, "Ben, they've already overcompensated with the channel of Colleen Ballinger, who has an infant, and they demonetized her for having her child even present in the video on her lap or whatever." Is Colleen Ballinger, is that the girl that does the annoying girl voice? Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe I'm out of my element here. You wouldn't fucking know.
Yeah.
Miranda sings or something. I don't know. I don't know, dude. Let's just demonetize everybody except everybody on the screen right now. Everybody else can go poor except us. We also have a couple of super chats here. Let me pull them up real quick. We have Larry Hill shipped us a couple of buckers. Keck7Go says, "Hi Nick, I used to be a fan of these guys before you came to the scene and stole my heart.
Oh gee.
Good to see you again, Benpai and Billy. Could you do me a favor and explain who Gail Cord Schuler is and why he should read her books?"
I mean, if I explain who she is, that may make him not want to read her books. Gail Cord Schuler, I mean, the easiest way to explain this woman is an older woman with probably a mild case of schizophrenia that lives in a very rich and frightening fantasy world that she talks about on her YouTube channel and writes books. She's actually a really great speaker. She, I mean, her videos, if you ever notice, she's really good at speaking. You know, she doesn't have any crutch words.
Yeah.
She doesn't do or anything like that. And she can read really well, like read out loud very well. You know, the letters from Jesus that she gets and stuff like that. Yeah. So, okay. So she does things that trolls tell her to do, but she thinks they're like Jesus and other people, like other fictional people telling her what to do.
Jesus has commanded she take her Seroquel so she doesn't get a yeast infection.
Yeah, she thinks Seroquel is for yeast infections, but it's like an antipsychotic medication. She wrote a book. She's written a bunch of books. They're all like very violent and sexual.
Sounds like my kind of book.
Yeah.
The one's called Jesus the Eternal Bridegroom. Oh man, should I just show him the trailer?
If you want. While you pull that up, Primal Neckbeard showed us some love. Spiffy Spiffman said, "Here's my YouTube red, free $2 for the sweet boys. Thank you for that." And Guns Down Inhale says, "Nick, tell them about the Duck Commander."
Oh yeah, I guess I could do that if you guys are interested. Are you familiar with Duck Commander LLC, otherwise known as Duck Dynasty?
Oh, that's the LLC though,
or as I like to call them, Cuck Dynasty. So during this whole Vic Mignogna thing, Vic's lawyer is a guy named Ty Beard, and we created a shirt. We being me and my art guy created a shirt, and another guy created some patches. Oh, I've got one somewhere. Oh, hold on, I got one right here. Created this patch, right? This patch says "Fear the Beard." We will be in touch. So Duck Commander LLC actually owns a trademark for the term or the phrase "Fear the Beard." And so while I'm sitting there like laughing at I think I sold 4 shirts on Teespring for a combined whopping $100 in revenue and $25 in profit.
Yeah.
I get a cease and desist letter from Duck Commander LLC's attorney saying that they're gonna take they took down the listing off of Teespring for trademark infringement for the Fear the Beard shirt. And so I go on Amazon, and if you could do this right now, it's great. You type in Fear the Beard t-shirt on Amazon, and you will not find one shirt. Well, you might find one. If you look hard enough, you'll find one shirt by Duck Dynasty. And the rest of them are in relation to James Harden of the Houston Rockets, or a guy named Joshua Miller or something. He's a baseball player who had a big beard back in like 2009, 2010. And then you can find some NFL shirts, and you can find some by Grunt Style, the notoriously popular military themed shirt makers. But you'll have a hard time finding the one from Duck Dynasty. On their own website, they have no Fear the Beard merchandise at all. And they're claiming to own this trademark and coming after me with a takedown request. So I've talked to my attorney, who's an IP attorney, the same guy who helped out Dick Masterson, his pursuit of or his defense of the, whatchamacallit, the biggest problem
Mad
in the
Cuts,
universe. Yeah. And we're actually going to try and take the trademark away from Duck Dynasty.
Ooh.
Mainly because their lawyer wouldn't return my phone call because she's a.
Do they still have a deal with Walmart?
I don't know if they do. I imagine they have to, because that, in my opinion, is where irrelevant brands go to die.
They were there for a while. I don't know if they.
People were asking me to play this Gail Cord Schuler movie trailer. I will. Before I do that, really quick, if you're watching right now, please like this video and please subscribe to this channel. If you're new here, welcome. Please subscribe. Otherwise, even if you've been here forever, 5 years or whatever, please make sure you're still subscribed, because they auto unsubscribe people from this channel all the time. So please do that. Yeah, it's garbage. So Gail Cord Schuler, one thing I'll tell you about her is that she believes that she's the commander of an intergalactic starship known as the Church of Gail, and the crew of that starship are made up of men on her marriage list who all happen to be Hollywood stars. There's Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, Hugh Jackman, just Keanu Reeves, just to name a few. But her main squeeze is actually Brent Spiner, the guy who played Data on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Hold on. You got Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
You've got Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
You've
Vladimir
got
Putin.
Keanu. And then, but your go-to guy
Yeah.
is Brett Spiner.
Yeah.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
Right.
Look, I'm on the straight and narrow, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That on that list, you know,
right. Yeah,
Brett Spiner is not in the top 5 of those 5 men. Brett Spiner is out of the top 5.
He's at the bottom.
No, he's
Yeah.
off of the list.
Yeah.
The only way I'm fucking Brent Spiner is if I'm using Dana Troy as a condom.
I would say Brent Spiner still has at least 10 years on the next oldest person in that group too. So there you go. And by the way, Brent Spiner knows about this woman. She's been stalking him for almost his entire adult life. And I actually got blocked by him on Twitter because I retweeted them in the same tweet. So he's terrified of this woman. But anyway, a bunch of trolls kind of help shape this woman's world that she lives in. And they sent her this script of this movie, and they had her film every character in it, and then she sent them all the footage, and they did it like a director's cut of it. And here's the trailer for it. It's gold.
Thanks. Cheers to a fistful of datas. What a long day wore out.
In a world where drug rape and Jesuit conspiracy run rampant, a man on a mission for the woman he loves
My angel.
is raped. Director Gail Cord Schuler, with producer Gail Cord
I don't know
Schuler.
how, but she managed to ride up and down all 18 inches of my erect penis.
A Gabrielle Chana film. Steven Spielberg raves it's the most impressive expose of Brent Spiner's rape ever made.
Fucking hey, dude.
Oh God!
Brent Spiner's
No! Don't drink the Jesus juice, Macaulay Culkin! You're going to get raped! You're going to get raped!
She looks into the camera as she delivers the line.
2012.
I love the looks to the camera.
Yeah.
God, that's good.
This is the thing.
Blood and feces splatter everywhere.
Gail wrote this herself. They didn't write this for Gail.
Right, but they told her what to film so they could like edit it together.
She sent them all the footage.
Jesus.
She wrote this. Gail wrote this.
Great.
Yeah, she's an amazing talent. Like,
I mean,
okay, smash or pass on that chick.
Oh, 100% pass. And I
Yeah,
love
pass,
crazy
me
women.
too.
I love crazy women, but this one scares me. Gail is
You're
too.
not down with that 18-inch erect penis?
Oh, I don't. For one, I couldn't please her. She's into those gigantic fucking dongs. I got a decent one, but I ain't horse throbbing. I don't have a Clydesdale cock. I just don't.
Right.
But who knows if she's ever even had a big peenie before. She talks a big game, but she talks a big game about her spaceship and her 7 to 8 fucking intergalactic husbands.
You know, we should probably play a couple news videos too while we're at it. I'll play our intro.
He called me sir and got me so fuming angry.
People are discriminating against wolves.
Wow.
They're laughing at us, at our stupidity.
Oh, did we get through all the Streamlabs?
I think there was a couple more since
right.
we stopped. I'll just fill in those real quick.
Yeah, feel free to get through those.
We got Ryan Schmidt says, finally the DP rackets team up. I've been waiting for it. Drunks for the booze god, booze for the drunk throne. Greg Norton says, nothing witty to say. Rock on Billy and Benny. And I'm going to add in Nick there. It's very rude you didn't say Nick. But thank you very much, Greg, and everybody else who supported tonight. Let's get on to the news.
Oh, and another announcement tonight, post show on Twitch. Catch Billy and I on the post show over on Twitch. Link in the description. And also, normally we do our third show of the week on Saturday. It's actually going to end up being tomorrow instead. We're going to have Hannibal and Monty on, so don't miss that. Let me find the story I thought looked interesting.
A very rare TGIF episode. TGIF. We got to get
Urkel.
The thumbnail needs to be the Family Matters and Perfect Strangers.
Oh, it should be.
Yeah.
Our co-host.
Where's the? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say our co-hosts every Saturday are black guys. So like now we get all these ebony and ivory kind of analogies all the time.
Wow, I didn't say that. People said it was the TGIF.
Yeah,
mashup.
they said they were they were Family Matters and we're Perfect Strangers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Nick?
I was curious, were we still going to talk about Mercedes Carrera?
Yes, we will do that right now.
Oh, sweet.
We should. I spaced on that. I'm glad.
How dare you?
You know, I've been waiting for updates on this, and it's been a little while. She's been in jail for how many months now? Since February?
Was it February or the end of January? Or was it the beginning of February?
February.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily have any updates, but I wanted to get your take on it and what you think is going on.
Well, it's pretty interesting. What do you guys know about this?
Well, I've known Mercedes for a long time, and she's been on this show multiple times.
Sure.
I don't necessarily know her personally, but I have a professional. She's like a professional acquaintance.
I've never been in any of her videos. I've auditioned, but never made it.
But I mean, I know her side of the story, and I know why she was arrested and what she's accused of. I don't know what to believe.
Yeah. Sure. So it's pretty interesting. Her story is wild. So her daughter made the report, right? Well, sort of. Her daughter told someone who made the report based on the daughter's statements, and then the daughter was interviewed by multiple organizations. So it depends on your level of trust in police and in child protective services specifically. But long story short, the daughter was interviewed independent of anyone by two different agencies. You had Child Protective Services of whatever county they're in. You also had the police of whatever county they're in. When Child Protective Services interviews a kid who's making these sorts of claims about a parent or another adult, what they tend to do is have some sort of therapist in the room as well who specializes in interaction with children to minimize the possibility of trauma and to help draw out answers to the questions. a lot of people look at that very skeptically, and probably rightfully so, right? So I'm not saying that makes it right or wrong or anything like that, but I'm just trying to lay out the situation that they were presented with. So two different organizations, the daughter accuses Mercedes of this inappropriate contact with her, and to be very clear, the only other adults in the room are out of view of the children, right? So you've got the interviewer and maybe a therapist across from the child. Any other adults in the room are going to be behind the child, so they can't like signal to the child to give a certain answer to a question.
Yes.
And after those interviews, they decided that they had probable cause sufficient to arrest Mercedes. Mercedes was arrested. She was given her first appearance, in which she did not produce an attorney, suggested that maybe at her second appearance she would have an attorney. Unfortunately, maybe at her second appearance, it was actually an extremely rainy day. So there was no press at the courthouse, where there otherwise would have been significant press at the courthouse, but it's rainy. They don't want to stand outside on the steps. So she was unable to really make a statement. She did not have an attorney present, and the indication is that neither she nor her husband, who is also an adult film producer, were able to afford a criminal defense attorney for it, which that was really interesting to me, because I figured that they made at least semi-significant money, but they couldn't even put up the money for a criminal defense attorney. So both of them are.
You'd think they would have some kind of money. It always seemed to me like some sort of a lucrative business. I've known a few people that worked at her level of the adult film business, and I thought there was at least some kind of good money. I mean, I know strippers that have made good money, you know. So but she did have guns and drugs in her place too, right?
Yeah, she had guns and drugs, but the overwhelming charge is the child sexual contact.
Sure.
And that's why she's stuck in prison. There's no or stuck in jail, I should say. There's no bail available for someone who's accused of the crime she's accused of. I will tell you where I fall on this. I believe the state has a very good case against her. I obviously can't tell you whether or not she is guilty, but I will tell you that based on the accusations of the child to two different organizations on 2 different days, I would never want to be in her position. I think she is likely, outside of the child completely deciding something different, she is likely to be found guilty of these crimes. Whether or not she did is a completely different question. As a criminal defense attorney, I try not to engage in whether or not people did it. It's more important to me whether or not they are able to be found guilty or defended under the law, and whoever's the public defender defending them has a tough job, and from what I understand, may not be doing the best job of it. But it's a public defender, so that's kind of to be expected.
Is it the case when you're representing someone who's a defendant in a criminal trial, is it your job to select the jury? Is that how that works?
The voir dire process is how you select a jury. So basically, they pull a pool of potential jurors, right, and they bring them into the room, and you get is different based on different, how big your jury is going to be. Different counties, different crimes are going to have different rules on this, but basically, you get a limited number of unquestionable removals. So, like, let's say you're the prosecutor in A Time to Kill with Samuel Jackson, right? You go into that jury room and you remove the first 6 black people that you can. Like, I don't want any black people on the jury. I'm going to get rid of these 6 with my unquestionable removals. And then you go through the process where you start asking, you have a list of questions that you can ask. You develop the list, but you have a limited number. You can ask to jurors about their experiences in life, about their position in life, about who they are, where you can try and figure out the proper demographic, and then you can raise challenges where you can attempt to dismiss a juror as a potential juror because you think there might be some sort of prejudice. So in this case, obviously, if you see any chicks with giant fake breasts or whatever, you might like in a real way, and this is not a slight, but you might want to consider dismissing them because that the fact that they have a body modification might make them more sympathetic to someone who's going to come into that courtroom and might have some noticeable body modifications, right? Or you might try and dismiss single men who are from the ages of 18 to 26 or something like that, because you might think that they're more likely to have consumed Mercedes Carrera's content. If you're a defense attorney, you definitely want those type of people on there. So then you would challenge it, and you actually have to make arguments before the court as to who gets to stay and who gets to go. But it's a collaborative process between both attorneys and the court. Sometimes it's combative, but each attorney does get a limited number, like 3 to 5 generally, where they can say, nope, you guys get out.
Where would the prosecution and defense stand on, like, if there was a Catholic priest that came in? Because on one hand, they hate porn, but the other hand, they love pedophilia. So, they just let him go in?
Well, it would be up to the individual lawyer's strategy at that point. And so they might say, look, if it's a defense attorney, they might say, I love pedophilia and I want this guy in there. Or the converse is they might say, I love pedophilia, that guy loves pedophilia, but I know he won't say it in public, so he's going to be more likely to vote against Miss Carrera, so I want him off. Okay. Right? So you have to set up kind of a real battle plan as to what demographic you're looking for. It's almost like you're like super Mad Men, right? It's like you pick your target demo, you go for what you want, and you actually have to measure the room and the county that you're in and all of that stuff and go with because like, what if in the county you're in, you're like, well, these people are more likely to believe in Pizzagate, for example. Like you've got a specific demo in this county that they're in. You're like, okay, males age 35 to 46, white males 35 to 46, and black males 50 to 62 are more likely to believe the Pizzagate narrative. So in that case, as a prosecutor, I want that demographic on the jury. And so I'm going to ask questions and try and root out anybody who might be an outlier from the norm in this county and figure that out. You can really take it to a crazy level as to how specific you have the questions, but you have to be able to justify any of the dismissals for reasons other than overtly race, sex, age, and orientation and religious affiliation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
here's another question.
I was called for jury duty once, and I got to that process where they were selecting jurors, and I was never called back. So I must have been one of the 3, one of the 6 combined.
I just poop myself when they
get rid of that guy.
So I stink.
You stand up and say, I don't believe in the age in the authority of the state. Bootlicks can kiss my butt, and I'm gonna rape your kids.
This one woman, I think she was trying to get out of it because she said she would believe a cop 100% over any person who wasn't a cop, no matter what the situation is. So
yeah, that's actually, it's funny that she was honest in that way because that's very common for jurors,
right?
To believe that, to do that. So
here's like an ethics question: if like you're saying Mercedes has a very hard case here, right? Like it's not looking good for her.
Right.
As a connoisseur of pornography, all right, I would feel guilty masturbating to Mercedes if she did all this shit, right?
If she's found guilty.
Yeah. So should I stop masturbating now, or should I get as many FAP sessions in as possible before she's convicted?
You have to maximize ejaculate while minimizing chafing.
Yeah.
That's really your only course at this end. And the best part is this is win-win, right? Because if she's found guilty, you didn't know that at the time. You don't have to regret it.
Thank you.
And you can move on with your life, knowing that you have maximized the time that you had.
That's all I needed to hear.
It's like
Yeah.
talking to a grandparent with Alzheimer's and answering the questions over and over, right? Like you maximize the time you had, and then when they die, you don't have to feel guilty about it. It's
I'm not
perfect.
fapping to my grandparents, by the way. That's not. That was never on the table.
After this came out, a lot of people found old tweets of hers where she was bashing people, calling them child molesters and that sort of thing. And if it turns out that she actually did do this, then that must have just been virtue signaling to divert away from that, you know?
Well, I mean,
yeah, it's tough because it's really easy to use confirmation bias to say, well, they were going after child molesters really hard because they were child molester. But my thoughts in particular on abuse of children, especially by the parent, right? Almost no parent sets out to abuse their child. It does happen. It does happen. But the overwhelming majority of abuse of children, be it physical or sexual abuse, is because of some deficiency in the parent that they don't like wake up in the morning like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and beat this kid.
Right.
Right. Like there's usually like a substance abuse, there's stress, there's all sorts of things. And then there's also some combination of inability to cope or process these stressors that are adding up, and then that gets channeled onto a child. Most people. So like giving Mercedes the benefit of the doubt of being a parent who got caught up in some awful things, if that's true, right, then it's not that she was necessarily disagreeing or that she was virtue signaling very hard. It might have been that she had no intention of doing this and then ran into a really tough patch or got into some really heavy drugs and started making decisions that were contrary to what was otherwise her worldview. That's absolutely a possibility. Although that sounds like an apologetic for someone who may or may not have offended on a child, it's not. It doesn't excuse the action in any sort of way.
I agree.
But
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, it's one way to kind of explain how someone goes one day to saying, I don't even spank my kids, to the next day, that kid being in the hospital with a spiral fracture in his femur, right? Like there's something, that person got fired, they got spit at on the subway, they got raped, and somehow that manifests in violence towards a child.
It's kind of like are you familiar with the Chris Benoit thing that happened years ago? The
pro wrestler.
Yeah, he was a pro wrestler, and just one night, well, like I guess it was over the period of a few days,
of a weekend.
Yeah, he snapped. First, he murdered his wife, and then he murdered their kid, and then he killed himself afterwards.
Sure. Did they do one of those like concussion brain scans on him?
He had
like
a bunch of them.
had?
His finishing move was a flying headbutt, like off the top rope, like jumping all the way across the ring to the other side of it. So yeah, he had a bunch of them.
Yeah. That thing, man, that's a weird sort of sleeper issue. That whole I can't remember the condition's name, but where you have the repeated concussions and then like seemingly normal people will just go out and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to go to the grocery store and on my way home, I'll stop at the sporting goods store, buy a shotgun and blow my brains across the car. Right. Like that's a weird thing, but yeah, it's similar, you know, any sort of thing can bring someone to a point where you wouldn't think they would go. And then suddenly tomorrow they have that day and they're Michael Douglas from Falling Down, but he's a Catholic priest. They're raping kids.
Yeah, the breaking point.
Yeah.
Falling Down. Well, I love the fast food scene in Falling Down. Like if I could just pay enough money where I get to fucking flip out in a McDonald's and then pull out a gun without going to jail, right? Just like
or getting shot by the cops.
Well, yeah, like that would be my Disneyland, right? Where I just get to walk into a fast food place.
Suicide by cop.
No, it's like obviously all set up, right? It's nobody's getting hurt. It's like maybe everybody's an actor, but I get to live out my fantasy.
You want to create a literal like false flag.
Yeah, but for like as an experience, you know.
False flag the experience.
Yeah, I get to role play in a McDonald's because they're not serving breakfast after fucking 11:30. I get to pull out my gun and flip out and make them give me an egg McMuffin. That would be fun. That would be entertainment for me. I would rather do that than go to fucking Disneyland. What?
So yeah, I don't know what more there is to really say about this, and I don't know. She's been sitting in jail for so long. I guess it just keeps getting pushed back.
I don't know the justice level of that is really tough, because it's always hard to argue for a pedophile or an alleged pedophile, right? But it is always weird when we decide that someone is beyond bail due to an allegation.
Right, that is weird.
Yeah, no matter where you stand, at my core, I'm a criminal defense attorney. It's the lawyering work that I like the most, because I love telling the state to go fuck themselves. I love it. My favorite call is when when a client calls me up and says, the cops want me to come in and talk to them. Will you represent me? And I'm like, oh yeah, buddy. What's the cop's phone number? Give me that detective's card. And I call him up and I just say, hey, fuck off. My client's not coming in. Well, why not? Because you're a dick. Click. I love doing that. It makes me so happy. And it always offends the notion of justice when you see an accusation be sufficient to remove someone's freedom.
I agree.
And so that part of Mercedes's case really bothers me. I will say that based on the research I've done, and I have access, and I can't really disclose why. Unfortunately, you'll just have to take me at my word on this. But I have access to a little bit of inside info on this case that suggests that I think Mercedes is in real trouble here.
Damn.
And it's not based on me knowing that she did it or anything like that. I absolutely don't. But it's based on just the level of evidence and the weight of testimony that will be against her in a criminal trial is going to be absurdly difficult to overcome. And I think she and her husband, unless her hope may literally lie in turning on her husband or something, or his hope may lie in turning on her.
Yeah. How do you feel about plea deals like that, where if you get a lesser charge if you rat out the other person?
I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a big fan of incentivizing someone to lie, and that's what those plea deals do, right? Like, if you're like, well, listen, if you plea first as a criminal defendant and you tell us everything the other person did, well, we'll let you off with this lesser offense. And, you might have to go to a minimum security prison for a year or something like that. But the other person, they're going to get life or they're going to get 35 years. And that just incentivizes the lie. I don't like that.
Another thing I'm thinking about, because you mentioned taking away her freedom. It's not just that, they've got her in the green jumpsuit in jail too. Yeah. So she's probably watching her back constantly because of that.
Did they have lots of strap-ons in lady prison?
I think everything's a strap-on in lady prison, right?
Right.
That's probably true. Let me consult Cinemax. I'll find out immediately.
Yeah.
There's somebody in there with a fruit by the foot and some fucking zucchinis.
and that's actually that's a real disadvantage that is unspoken about having a public defender, right? A public defender doesn't have a budget to go out and buy you a suit to show up in court. So you show up in a green jumpsuit. A private defender is going to buy you or bring you a suit from your house. They're going to demand that you get to show up to court in a suit, that you not be handcuffed. They're going to make all sorts of affidavits to the safety of everybody involved. They're going to demand that you not be brought in from the witness detention room and stuff like that, so that you come in through the main door, so as not to prejudice a jury and not to prejudice a fact finder. They're going to set a private attorney is going to have the time and the budget, because the budget is the client's budget, to set those things out and make sure that their client comes in dressed nice, looking like just some guy who was charged with his first speeding ticket, and he's the nice Mormon boy who's coming in dressed up in his Sunday best because he's nervous. That's what you want your client to look like all the time. And Mercedes is not going to get that. She has a public defender. There's no budget for buying the client a pantsuit, like the best Hillary Clinton model pantsuit that they can. She's gonna come into there. She's gonna be in a jumpsuit. She's gonna be in handcuffs. They may handcuff her to the table or something like that when she sits down. And I tell you what, no matter what you think about any of these people or who you are, when you're on the defense side and your client is in that position, you know that everybody in the room goes, not what are they accused of, but what did they do?
What did they do? Yeah.
And that you never want what did they do. You always want a jury to say, what is this person accused of? Yeah. It's like when you're selling something and you hand them, because when people stand there with their arms folded, right, and listen to your sales pitch, they're not buying anything. But if you can put something in their hands, like a piece of paper that they can look at, it literally opens up their body and their mind to be receptive to the sales pitch. And if you can, however you can do that in court is massively important. However you can do that in a negotiation is massively important as well. People with public defenders don't get it because public defense offices don't have the budget. So, not to be depressing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know how they give prisoners jobs and stuff? Would they be able to start like a in-prison porn company for her?
No.
No?
I really should. It would make so much money.
Yeah. Let her when she's in there work off some of her debt.
They could call it like locked up ladies' elbows.
Yeah.
Right? Like that'd be yeah.
Because they make them do some fucked up shit there for work. Like, why not just let them do some pornos?
What do you guys think about elbow as a derogatory lesbian slur?
Really?
Elbow. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I'm brand new.
Yeah, well, it's like L-bow, like lesbo type thing, but it's not the end.
That's derogatory?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Because a lot of them go elbows deep when they hit the fist.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Elbow.
Double elbows are scary, right? You got to stay away from that. That girl likes to party a little too hard.
They're gonna the next Evil Dead series is gonna be a woman who's gonna play Ash. And instead of having a chainsaw on her arm, she's gonna have another fucking elbow on her arm, another lesbian. She's gonna go around fighting the fucking Deadites with a lesbian on her fist.
They got no chance.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a tongue coming out of that second elbow. It'll be perfect.
Somebody's give this funding. I want to watch it. They already did gender bend Evil Dead though, didn't they? There was a version of Evil Dead that came out with a girl antagonist, and it. Yeah,
that was the new one, wasn't it?
No, they had a new one, and then they just brought Ash back for the Stars series. So now I'm like thinking about the gender bending. I'm like, wait, they already did that, and I'd forgotten. I went to see it in theaters. I still forgot it existed.
You know how out of most of the Democrats that don't want, or that do want to impeach Trump, Pelosi said she didn't want to. Well, today she revealed that she wants him to go to prison.
Oh.
Or it was leaked.
Right.
It was leaked that she wants him to go to prison. Here's a clip about that.
We are also watching another big story
at the prison?
right now. It has to do with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
He wouldn't be president anymore if he went to
just
prison.
a quick update. She's still a no on impeachment, but she is offering up a new and, quite honestly, a pretty brutal idea of what she would like to see happen to President Trump. Behind closed doors, according to Politico, the Speaker of the House told other Democratic leaders, quote, "I don't want to see him impeached. I want to see him in prison." Politico citing multiple Democratic sources familiar with that meeting. So, are Pelosi and her top committee chairs on the same page here? Well, here is how Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler put it last night to CNN.
Are you on the same page with the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, when it comes to impeachment?
Why is his face retreating from his forehead?
It's true. It's like sagging further and further and further down.
Listen, Wolf. As I said, we are launching an inquiry now, and whether we'll launch an impeachment inquiry, it may come to that.
Did he say launch?
Yeah, we're launching an inquiry.
It's like my 3-year-old talking to the news.
Well, he's probably wearing diapers too. He's old as fuck. His face is dripping off. Like he's effectively the opposite of a 3-year-old.
Okay,
he's got 3 years left.
Interesting question. If the president is not impeached but goes to prison, is the president still the president? Now, there's actually a federal judge by the name of Nixon, who was who was in prison. I believe he was in prison for a while before he was actually impeached and removed as a federal judge, because a district court judge is a lifetime appointment, right? Mm-hmm. So this guy is in prison. He's still a federal judge getting federal pay for years. Damn. And appeals his case out all the way up to the Supreme Court. And I think they did determine that without impeachment, he was still entitled to his judgeship, even though he was in prison.
Wow. I had no idea.
I have to double check that, but it's one of those cases they teach you in law school, and you're like, come on. First of all, this guy's name is Nixon.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah,
sounds like a troll to me. Trolling out a troll.
I don't see Trump getting impeached. I just don't see it happening. Let alone removed from office.
What do you think about having a heart attack in office? You think that's more likely?
Yes.
So here we go. Nixon was convicted in 1986 on perjury charges and sentenced to 5 years in prison. In 1989, he was impeached by the United States House of Representatives and convicted by the Senate for committing perjury before a grand jury. Upon his conviction by the Senate, he was removed from office. So like, this guy was in prison from 1986 to 1989. Nixon appealed his impeachment and removal to the United States Supreme Court. Nixon versus U.S. handed down 1993. The court rejected his appeal as a non-justicable political question. He returned to private practice in Mississippi from 1993 to 1998. And is he still alive? He is still alive. He's 90, and as far as I can tell, still practicing law. Wow. But so this guy was, he was removed from office in 1989 after being in prison for presumably at least 2 years, if not 3 full years. So the question, this is an interesting question. If Trump were to be, it's hard to indict a sitting president, right? They say that over and over.
Yes.
We're not sure if we actually can do it. It's never been done. But if they do indict a sitting president, convict him and put him in prison, he's still the president, I think, under the Constitution until he is impeached.
Doesn't that mean he can pardon himself too then?
Yeah, the jury is out on it. The guy who wrote my con law textbook in law school is a little squirrely guy named Erwin Chemerinsky. He weighed in on this, and I believe he said that, of course, the president would not have the power to pardon himself. However, his basis of that is, it just doesn't make sense, damn it.
Couldn't he resign and then Pence, the new president, could pardon him anyway?
In theory, yes, that should be able to happen, and Pence's decision to do that would not be challengeable by Congress or by the court. Impeachment, or he would not be able to resume his term as president, though. Impeachments cannot be impeachments cannot be pardoned. However, criminal charges absolutely can. And I think that they would have a real hard time convincing the Supreme Court that a president could not pardon himself simply because the impeachment process does exist. So it's like, well, we think it's weird that the president can pardon himself. However, they had the opportunity at the founding of the nation, when they wrote this Constitution, to put in a limit on impeachment that would limit it to not include the president himself. They did not do that. Instead, they gave us this impeachment process, which has a lower standard than criminal justice does, because you can actually impeach Trump for peeing while sitting down or whatever you want. You can go ahead and do that. High crimes and misdemeanors is the standard, but that standard is not defined anywhere in the Constitution. So high crimes and misdemeanors, like Trump was speeding in his limo that he wasn't driving. That's a high crime or a misdemeanor. We can impeach him for that if we want. It's entirely a political process.
So Clinton was perjury, right? That's what they impeached him on, right?
They impeached him on something.
Because I think he lied about the relationship with Lewinsky in front of a grand jury.
That was the popular charge. Okay. There were something like 7 other charges total. He had something like 9 impeachment grounds, and many of them are things that Trump is also accused of, which would be witness tampering or intimidation. So the idea that there's some suggestions that President Clinton paid off various people in his sexual assault allegations against what was it? Flowers?
Something like I think her name was Jennifer Flowers. There was also Linda Tripp. She was another person involved in it.
Was she the one that like whistle blew the situation?
Yeah.
There's a part of the impeachment proceedings were suggestions that President Clinton had paid money to influence either witness testimony or jury outcomes in the civil cases related to those alleged assaults. But the main media point on that was the Monica Lewinsky relationship and his mischaracterization of that relationship. But it was actually they had that's kind of spin. Right, that became the focal point, but there were these other very serious allegations of jury tampering and witness tampering, and I think Trump has some of that too, even though it kind of gets lost in the Russia collusion stuff. But there's an idea that Trump has paid people to lie under oath in relation to specific court cases. I don't remember where I read that, but I do remember reading it. So if I'm wrong on that, I apologize.
Bill Clinton was an attorney before he got into politics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And when you watch that deposition that they gave him about the Monica Lewinsky thing, man, you can tell when he does the whole, that depends on what your definition of the word is.
Yeah. Yep. Very lawyerly.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Do you think Bill Clinton never slept with a client?
Probably.
I think Bill Clinton definitely slept with a client, because if I were him, I would sleep with anyone other than Hillary. No, but it is very interesting how the strategy worked for Bill, right? Because we focus on lines like that. Well, it depends on what your definition of the word is.
Yeah.
All right.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Not a single time. I didn't do it. Right. We focus on those big things, those big moments, and they're all related to this Monica Lewinsky thing. But when you break it down, to me, the far more egregious thing than him lying about a sexual encounter in the Oval Office, which Kennedy had sexual encounters in the Oval Office on like an hourly basis.
Right.
And no one cared, because Kennedy was much more handsome than Bill Clinton, and Marilyn Monroe was much prettier than Monica Lewinsky. Right. So we don't really care about that so much. And I think at the core, America didn't really care so much about the Monica Lewinsky thing, or even the fact that he lied about it, because everybody seems to have lied about having sex with a fat chick at some point in their life. But the real interesting thing is, like I said, there's like 7 of these impeachment counts that involve very, very serious things: paying off a jury, undermining the judicial process, and yet the entire country is focused on these basically irrelevant questions about one sexual encounter in the Oval Office. And that's the glory of having the best PR people available to you in the world when you're the president of the United States, right? Is to you look, we can get you a little humiliation, but we'll keep you the presidency. How's that?
In your opinion, is Sarah Sanders a good PR person?
No, not really.
She seems, in my lifetime, she's the worst at it I've ever seen. I don't know. Like I remember Dana Perino coming out and making the stuff Bush was doing seem great, even if you disagreed with it. She was good at that job.
Bush probably didn't have so many demands for her. I'm sure Trump has demands.
I mean, people hated Bush just as much as they hate Trump.
But
now.
I think Bush was a politician, so he knew how to deal with that shit a little better. Trump seems like the type that just throws temper tantrums.
I think Bush doesn't have the ego that Trump has, so he lets it roll off his back a lot more easily too.
Yeah, well, Bush is, people might hate me for this. Bush is more likable than Trump.
Yeah.
Because Trump is unapologetic. He's abrasive. He has a very, he has an intentionally New Jersey style blue collar demeanor to him, which is in your face. It's, it's unapologetic about anything. That's the persona he gives off, which is why a Manhattan billionaire who grew up a 100 millionaire's son can convince an entire portion of the country that he's just like them, right? He's very good at.
Yeah, he has nothing in common with people living in Mississippi.
Well, he does eat Kentucky Fried Chicken. He does eat some weird shit. He's got a little commonality.
True. It's stuff like that that makes you overlook the fact that his apartment has more gold leaf than the entire state of Mississippi has gold leaf, right? Oh, yeah. Like you overlook that. And that's not a slight on Trump. It's a very interesting way that he's been able to brand himself as this middle-class guy when he went to very good schools. He went to he got his master's from Dartmouth or whatever, something like that. Wharton, right?
It was some prestigious university.
Right. So he did well. He did well in school at a very respected school. You could say he paid for it or whatever. I don't. It doesn't matter. I don't care about Trump's reputation personally. But he can bill himself as this middle class guy. But part of the way he does it is a trade off. It's this very abrasive, in your face attitude. Look, I grew up tough. And I'm still tough like I grew up, and I'm willing to stand in your face and call you a moron. I'm happy to do so. Actually, I call people the best morons. Really terrific. We have the greatest morons. Right? Like, he's able to do that. Bush was so much different because Bush had that very calm, casual, self-deprecating style to him, where even if he didn't make fun of himself in public, you got the feeling that you knew he would the moment he got on the plane and was out of the public eye, right? Bush is like, well, a guy threw a shoe at me and I at least had a good dodge, right?
Yeah, that was amazing. He was like a cat when that happened.
Yeah. It's so Bush was infinitely more likable in that way, and I think that gave his press secretary a little bit easier job.
Bush
I wasn't a big fan of Obama's press guys, though.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I wasn't a big fan of Obama's press guys either. I think they've largely been doing a bad job on both sides of really not reaching to the middle. I think your job as the press spin guy or the White House spokesperson or whatever is to not reach to the middle, but to reach all the way across and say, all of my messaging has to be targeted towards the other side because my base is probably with me unless I raped a kid. Honestly, Obama drone strikes an American citizen, flat out murders him. It's one of the least constitutional things I can possibly think of. The due process is literally some military guy 3,000 miles away piloting the drone, pressed a button, and he's like, yeah, actually, that guy's on a kill list. That was the due process afforded to the guy who got drone struck by Obama. And lots of people are largely okay with that. And it's really one of the most terrifying decisions a president has made. Because Bush drone struck some things and accidentally killed Americans. Obama picked one and said not only him, but his 16-year-old son were killing them both. And they did it. And yet, he gets away with that. And at a time where 20 years ago, no one gets away with that. And so we know now that our bases are so entrenched on either side of the political spectrum that my opinion is, as a press secretary, almost you should hire as Trump, like the most liberal left-wing guy you can possibly find, and have him spin every Trump story in a pro-left way. Because you should be trying to get the few people across the aisle who hate you to change their mind at least a little bit. Because the base is probably okay unless you're really, really terrible.
Yeah, and the last time he had Hillary to do that for him. He had the disenfranchised Democrats that wanted Bernie that were voting for him as a slight against Hillary because they saw the actual insider, sabotage of Bernie Sanders. So
right. So I got a question for you guys, since y'all are both. You said you're like center left.
Yeah.
I think you said
yes.
So as long as that's a fair categorization, what happens if the Democrats nominate like Joe Biden? Right? Like, does that piss you guys off?
Yes.
Does that make you happy?
Yes. And I think it's insane that he's polling at the head of the polls. I think that's just craziness. I don't believe it. And I mean, polling can be accurate and it also has issues as well, but we definitely saw the polls be wrong in the last general election. So
right.
And I just don't trust them completely. I find it hard to believe that Joe Biden's polling so high. His shot was 4 years ago. That's when he should have ran. Why would you be vice president for 8 years and then not run at the end of those 8 years?
I think the DNC promised it to Hillary.
Especially when you're as old as he is. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why. He had the momentum of 8 years being vice president to run for president, which is what he should have done, but he didn't to let Hillary have her shot. And I think for that reason alone, I would never vote for him, on top of whatever other reason I could come up with.
How are we going to vote?
To be fair,
yeah.
Oh, to be fair, Biden's poll is so high because there's a bunch of kindergarten girls running around.
That's true.
Oh.
That's true.
Oh, I'm just.
But how could we even have him as an option in this Me Too climate? Like,
because he does the creepy shit.
Yeah, with the creepy shit, like in this Me Too climate, how can we do that? I could see him being a Republican in this climate and winning, but not a Democrat.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and unironically, I completely agree with you because let me be very clear. While Joe may be creepy, I don't think Joe is molesting children.
No, I don't think so either.
I think Joe is like a grandpa who pinches you a little too hard or has you sit on their lap and you're like, what the hell, grandpa? Like, it's weird, but I don't think there's malicious intent personally.
Yeah, right.
So, and I all of the things I say about Joe Biden being a creep are completely just jokes that I would make about anybody. That said, when you have one political part of the political spectrum that is very much invested in this idea of Me Too, and the Republicans, for better or worse, are kind of invested against this Me Too idea. When you have the Democrat side being so invested in it, I think it's incumbent upon them to go ahead and they have to eliminate Joe. They have to say, look, Joe, we're sorry, but your charm and all of the positive things about you, we have to go ahead and we have to dismiss that for consistency purposes. I think, to his credit, I think Al Franken realized that, because you guys are center left or whatever. I'm like right up down or whatever. I'm on the right side of the spectrum. Typically, and I mean the autism spectrum, obviously. And I'm typically libertarian. I'm not very authoritarian, which is why I had problems with Trump going into the election. But I inherently reject a lot of this Me Too sort of concept. I think that the Democrats largely have to just say, look, whatever it is, we have this thing to maintain. Oh yeah, Al Franken. Sorry, drinking got me. Al Franken, who I do not like, I think was inappropriately lambasted. Now,
I agree.
I approve of the lambasting mainly because, like, this is the world you want, this is the world you get type thing. I'm that kind of guy. But I don't think that in a vacuum, the accusations against Al Franken were fair. I think they're only fair in the context of pushing this sort of Me Too thing. So I think with Joe, that it's incumbent upon the Democrat Party to say, look, if we're really for this, if we're really for women in this particular way, then we have to distance ourselves from this guy, because if he were Republican, we absolutely would. So it's a weird thing, though. But.
Yeah.
Isn't it ridiculous that they call themselves the Democratic Party when they rig their own primaries? And it's not a democratic process when it comes to who they select as their candidate?
Yeah, Bernie got absolutely boned by that. The real egregious thing. There's a lot of egregious.
Did you
stuff
know
that
he
happened.
won every precinct in West Virginia, but didn't get any of the delegates from it?
Yeah, I couldn't have told you it was West Virginia, but I remember reading that. That was when you knew it was a complete setup was when we found out that Hillary Clinton had taken over funding before primaries were finished, had taken over funding duties for the DNC and funding decision-making for the DNC prior to the primaries finishing. And she was able to effectively start sending DNC funds to Clinton or Hillary for America prior to them determining that she was the Democratic candidate. Like her office just walked in and took it. And it's like, okay. these organizations need to go. Like, in my opinion, the DFL and the GOP need to get out.
I don't understand. We saw how shitty of a job she did as Secretary of State. Why would we want her to be president? I don't get it.
It was her time. It's her turn.
Yeah.
Her time.
She paid her dues. You know, she lost to Obama, man. We can't let that happen again. That's why they had super delegates just do whatever she wanted them to do. They claim this time around the super delegates don't have as much power. Why are they there at all? Why do we have this elite class of people whose votes count more than anybody else's? I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. And I mean, in general, the idea, the party, look, I think a two-party system is a necessary result based on economics of how the process that we have comes into play, right? It makes the most sense, not as like an organized thing, but just in how things will shake out, that a majority of people will split between one major decision between two people, and they'll say, look, this person represents this set of ideals that I agree with at my core, and these are the most important to me. And the person next to them will say, this person does. I think that is basically an outcome of economics, that we will have a choice between two people. That said, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I agree with you. I just think, since we aren't a true democracy, we elect representatives who then in turn are supposed to represent us and create legislation based on what we put them in office to do. The process to elect them should at least be a fully democratic process,
Yeah. And that's the weird thing. So what I'm saying, that I think that a two-party system is the necessary economic outcome. I'm not saying it's the appropriate system. I just think the way we have our election set up, it is the most efficient way to collect votes in an adversarial process. Okay. That said, the two parties have set up, they've made rules, and it's there's a very great center left podcaster named Dan Carlin, who does hardcore history, and he does a show called Common Sense as well. And watching him melt down through the election was great, just because his brain literally broke as Trump was like winning primaries and stuff like that. And because he wanted Trump in the race, he didn't want Trump to win. He wanted a Trump and a Bernie, right? He's like, I want these outside voices. I love them. I want these independent guys. Yeah. And he did, but he didn't want a Trump to win. So when he did, you could like hear his brain like trying to process. But what's really incestuous about this, and he highlights it really, really well, is that these parties operate under rules that they create that are outside of the constitutional process, they're outside of the legal process, and they're terrifying. Like, I was hammering on this. We don't want I mean the royal we, I actually do, but we don't want corporations donating more than $2,500 per year to a candidate, right? We have these campaign finance restrictions that say $2,500 per person or corporation per year directly to the candidate, different from super PACs and spending on advertising and stuff like that. We want this, except when it comes to the GOP and the DFL, we'll let them give infinite money to a candidate. So it's like, the GOP can give $1 million to the presidential candidate of their choice,
right?
When no other organization on earth can do so, and that's a very weird thing. And there's no law that, I mean, there's a law that allows it, but it's only because they're the people in charge of it.
I see. Yeah, they govern themselves. There was one more thing I wanted to ask you about before we end the show tonight. You said you're libertarian. So how do you feel about Yang and his UBI?
I'm not a big fan of universal basic income in general. In my opinion, and I feel the same way about the minimum wage or whatever, when we look at these things in the context of, well, we have these costs, so if we give people this amount of money guaranteed, then then we'll fix it. So if we determine that $12,000 a year per person will somehow cure everything, like even if we mathed that out and said that's going to happen today, I think within 12 months, everything costs more, and $12,000 a year is no longer sufficient. So then we have to reevaluate it, right? And I feel the same way about minimum wage. If you're going to increase the minimum wage from $9 to $12, and you say, well, look, $12 an hour is going to create a sustainable wage. Well, then suddenly you have $9 an hour. It goes to $12 an hour. All of the companies that had budgeted at $9 an hour have to suddenly pay more. Things get more expensive logically as a result, because what companies tend to not do is eat into their own profit margin when they come into increased costs. They pass that along to the consumer.
Yeah.
So my general impression of that is I don't think that UBI will help. However, I've heard very compelling counter arguments from people that I trust who say that with stuff like the robotics revolution and the automation.
Yep,
it's gonna change.
That's what Yang's UBI is all based around, is the automation, and that we need to do something now before we're stuck with a problem that we can't catch up with.
Even something as simple as like a fast food restaurant. The majority of the jobs that exist in a McDonald's now can easily be done by automation.
I don't know. A robot can't spit in my food.
That's why it's an even better idea.
But can it ejaculate in your food? Because that's what we're really after.
Yeah,
that special sauce on the Big Mac.
Only if it's programmed to do that.
Damn it. And then when you look at the minimum wage raising and stuff, there's a lot of places here in Seattle in the Northwest that are doing this. There's a fucking burger place here that is $15 to $18 an hour, and they operate just fine, right? It's a matter of
you're talking about Dick's?
Dick's, yeah. Okay. It's a matter of
I love to eat me a big bag of Dick's.
How much does a burger cost there? I have no idea.
Yeah, no, there's anywhere from $2 to
it is Seattle, so everything's more expensive here. It's crazy.
But a Dick's burger is not really that expensive compared to a McDonald's burger.
Right, it's true. Yeah, Dick's burger isn't that much more
$2 to $4.50, and you get a milkshake. Their menu's very simple. They don't fuck around with all the quantity of options because the quality is there.
Yeah.
And I think we lose places like Walmart when we raise the minimum wage, I think, because they're based on the bottom line and cutting as many corners as possible. And
same thing with Amazon. Amazon's like that. Amazon's like, people used to complain about Walmart so much. Amazon is leaps and bounds beyond.
Yeah, but
Walmart.
Do you know how many times I've been had a picture of me in my underwear taken shopping on Amazon? And I shop on Amazon in my underwear way more than I shop at Walmart in my underwear.
So Amazon used to move into a small town, and they'd put all the mom and pop stores out of business, and it would end up being like, not only was Walmart the only place to work in town, it was also the only place to buy anything. So people would just get their paycheck from Walmart and give it right back to them because that was the only place to buy groceries in town or whatever else you needed. Yeah. But now Amazon is replacing brick and mortar places to buy things.
Yeah.
You know, eventually there will be like 12-hour delivery with Amazon.
Yeah, they just moved to 1 day for Prime members, and I love that because I'm definitely a Prime member. And we do a lot of purchasing on Amazon, mainly because we live out in the country, right? Yeah. So they're like the Best Buy in our town closed down, and it wasn't due to Amazon, it wasn't due to Walmart. The Best Buy in our town closed down due to this local group called the Wilmer 10. As if that doesn't sound like mafioso enough. It's like a group of 10 rich white people who determine rental rates on like a huge portion of property in the area. And they tried to flex on Best Buy, and Best Buy said, "Peace, your store's not that important to us," and just left.
Yeah.
But that said, going into a Best Buy now, and I worked at Circuit City in the late 90s.
Oh man.
And when you go in, yeah.
I remember when those went out of business because I was working for a cell phone company. And I remember because a lot of our phones were sold at Circuit City. So I remember getting prepared for the whole store going under. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember working at Circuit City, and I have been to Best Buy all my life. You go into a Best Buy now and they're cool. They're really cool to go in because they have typically just thousands of products on display that you can try out that before you never would have gotten to do, right? They would have the products on display, but they wouldn't be operating. Now you go in, like you go to the home automation section, you can see all of the Google cameras and hubs and all that stuff. You can see all the competitors. They lay them out. They tell you about the ecosystem. It's very much, they're starting to figure out that their big advantage over an Amazon is that you can touch the product. And you can look at it in this way that you cannot do on a computer screen. And that's how brick and mortar stores are going to survive if they can't figure that out. Like I keep marveling at these clothing stores going out of business. I'm like, oh my God, when someone could go in and try on a shirt, how can you not sell the shirt to that person where Amazon can sell the shirt to the person? They don't even know if it's going to fit.
It's convenience. I guess people, they'll buy convenience over that. They have those Amazon store, or they have at least one here in Seattle, an Amazon store where you don't check out with a human. You like scan it with your phone and then you just leave. You know? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was promised that years ago when RFID tech became big. They're supposed to put RFID tags and everything, and you just literally just walk out of the store with your cart, and it would scan all the RFID tags and just charge your credit card. That's what I read in like Popular Science.
Yeah.
Something like 15 years ago, and I still don't have that. And it's like, oh my God, I want that at a grocery store.
Well, the Amazon grocery store here in Seattle does that, right?
Yeah.
Like they have an entire grocery store that you just put stuff in your cart and you walk out, and it don't scan anything. It just reads your phone when you're in there shopping. It knows what you picked up and put in your bag. It knows what you walked out with. So they're getting there.
Yeah.
I'm moving to Seattle immediately.
Do it. We love you here.
Yeah.
I'll even commit some crimes you can defend me for. That's a little extra money.
You would definitely find it interesting here because it is extremely left wing here. You know, there's a big there's a giant statue of Vladimir Lenin on display in Seattle. No lie.
Well, you got to remember, I'm in the one state that remained blue during the Reagan landslide. So we have our share of lefties out here too.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So, just a quick reminder to everybody watching, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. If you use the Brave browser, you should have your basic attention tokens. That's our newest way of monetizing this channel. It pays better than YouTube ad revenue now. So I would advise to you, if you're watching right now and you don't already use the Brave browser, it's better than Chrome. Click the link in the description, download it, and once a month you will get basic attention tokens. It's a cryptocurrency. You give them to us, we exchange them for real money. It works. We've done it multiple times. It's great. So do that post show on Twitch tonight.
Yeah, someone should put the link in for the Twitch post show. If you're watching now, follow over to Twitch. We'll be doing the post show very soon. Real quick, couple Streamlabs.
Okay.
Shane Bell 618 said it's hard for me to see YouTube ever not being the main platform for creators. It's integrated into everything, every phone, TV, console, and tablet. It's the main app for almost all media.
It's Google.
It's Google, but it could definitely not be the main platform
the OS,
if they make it not fun to use anymore.
The OS of my phone is made by Google, so YouTube is going to be the biggest part of its video usage.
Netflix is on just about every monitor now too, though. And if Netflix decides they want to start giving some of their production money to content creators and just skip the process of looping stuff out, knowing that they might be able to have people make it on their own, like and bring
someone
in a
said
platform.
Make Nick rap battle Billy.
Oh snap!
You got skills?
Oh snap!
No, I rap like the whitest person I've ever met.
Yeah, like
I'm much whiter than Eminem.
Yeah, see, like I'm totally white too. Like I'm from Northern Ohio. I like hockey and stuff. So that's like
racist.
That puts me up there on the white meter.
Racist.
Yeah, you're almost Canadian white at that point.
Almost. Yeah, I lived an hour away from the border, so yeah, pretty close.
Aaron says my D&D inspired comic needs to hit 150 backers tonight. Please help. Turnkey on Kickstarter. Half Lord of the Rings, half HBO's Oz. What is it like? Is it like elves getting raped? All about Oz is like you always get raped.
Yeah.
Damn it. Thanks for love you guys stuff. Turnkey Kickstarter. Keck7 Go says also, dear God, tell Nick to avoid the children's book about Brent's cat.
Oh my God.
Dear God, that thing is so funny. Though
there's-
Nick might find it funny, but Benpai, please explain it to Nick.
There's the woman we were watching earlier.
Gail Cordschuler.
Yeah. She wrote a children's book that was later illustrated by somebody, and in it, Brent Spiner gets hypnotized by Jesuits, and is forced to rape his cat that played his pet Spot on the Star Trek television show.
But in the movie that she did, he was like brainwashed and forced to rape Macaulay Culkin too.
Yeah.
And she's constantly putting him in scenarios where he has to fuck things he shouldn't.
Or he gets fucked.
She's got a thing against Jesuits too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She thinks Jesuits are
the reason that she doesn't have Brent Spiner with her right now.
They're basically like the Illuminati.
Yeah, the Brent Spiner we see in everyday real life is actually a Jesuit clone.
I was at a Star Trek convention and I saw Brent Spiner sitting at a table eating a sandwich, and I took a picture of him and sent it to Gail, and she was like, "That's not the real Brent. That's his clone."
Red Scare said, Red Scare tipped $10 and says, hi, Ben, Billy, and Nick.
Hi.
Thank you, Red Scare.
Hey.
Vash Lancet says, wouldn't an ideal system be what George Washington was originally warning us after he left the presidencies that split up weird? The presidencies, the compromise, and keeping us all on the same page by compromise. Also, everyone get the Brave browser. By the way, hi, Nick.
Thank you.
Hi.
And I don't know if we have anything else. I'll check the super chats one time through. The Killer Critic says, I honestly wonder if we should add Apocalypse's journals. John Foomaster came through with the $15 Patreon pledge.
Guys, Patreon declines at least a dozen of our patrons every month. We lose anywhere from 12 to 20 to 30 patrons every month. Not from people who cancel. They just get declined. So now's the best time to become a patron if you want to. We're doing Spin Till You Spew on the 14th, me versus Sofane. I'm going to take that old bastard down. He doesn't know what he's gotten himself into. I'm the undefeated world heavyweight champion of Spin Till You Spew.
You can say that. You can say that after you beat
I
Sofane.
took your ass down twice.
Once.
I think at the time you outweighed me by like 3 times, and I still beat you.
Oh my God, it was rigged. Short Round also says, Nick, tell them about the Cuck Commander website and the bull calls. Paid for marketing arm of Rekieta Law LLC. Fear the Beard. Share the GoFundMe. We got into that a little bit earlier. I don't know if there's more.
I think if you go to cutcommander.com, let me just double check. Cutcommander.com.
Did you know Maddox accused me of doxing him too? Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because I read the list that he had me ban, and there was a lot of like random stuff on it, but I guess some of it must have been like privileged information.
Yeah, Ben was reading it and he was like, Madison Avenue.
No, it was not like that. It was not like that. I didn't read anything that looked like a phone number or an address or anything like that.
No, Maddox seems to misunderstand things all the time, especially like doxing and all of that and threats.
Me and him have a bunch of mutual friends. And now, like, if he'll see on social media I'm hanging out with one of those mutual friends, he'll, like, send them a DM telling them, watch out, that guy might dox you.
Sounds like a good friend to me.
True story. When I went on Fantano's show, he got messages that I was going to, quote-unquote, dox him. And when I went on Accursed Farm, or when I had Accursed Farms, the guy who did that Games as a Service video, he came on my show and yeah, same thing. He's like, a bunch of people contacted me and said you're like a doxer. And I was like, yes. Actually, I dox everyone all the time. And I've actually already doxed you and the children you don't have. But yeah, so I get that. I get that same thing where people are like, yeah, he's awful. He's a doxer. It's like, what the hell?
Was that from Maddox or was that somebody else accusing you of doxing?
I have no idea. It could be really anybody because basically I've said before that lawyers don't really care about doxing because we have to dox people to serve them documents, right? Like you have to find out where they are or where they live or whatever to serve them. So it's kind of part of our job. Now, that doesn't mean we wantonly leak information about people all over the place or that we target harassment against them. It's just that we know that there's a process for finding people and you know, it's not necessarily illegal. It doesn't bother us in the same way that it might bother a normal person, mainly because if it's not illegal, you know, it's in my toolbox for dealing with a lawsuit.
I would say the intent behind it matters. If it's done as a form of harassment, that's different than what the example you're giving.
Well, don't you get these nuanced things like what people need to do something? That would be silly.
I knew a woman that was doxxed, and a stalker used the dox to find where she lived, and he stalked and harassed her for over a year because of it until she ended up moving and was able to hide where her new place was. This guy like harassed her. It was some woman that used to hang out in Pimp Monks chats all the time. She made a video about it. It's really crazy. He would like go to her apartment complex and take a picture of it and send it to her.
I once threatened to dox a girl if she didn't sleep with me.
And the police couldn't do anything unless he actually did something. That's the crazy part.
I threatened to dox a girl if she didn't sleep with me, and she just decided to burn her house down and become homeless. So. It's not that effective. Don't try it.
No, don't do it.
But it is very interesting when we get down to it. At the end of the day, doxing is not illegal, and a lot of people think it is. It's the threat or harassment that is actually illegal,
right?
And that's whatever your opinion on doxing is, and people are split. Although most people are generally against it. Whatever your opinion on it is, we should all be opposed to the threats and harassment that are a potential result of it. And that's the downside. If I could dox people and know they would never get threatened, well, who would care at that point, right? Like that wouldn't matter.
I think
so much.
Doxing, when it's being done to enable a deeper form of harassment, to where people who are, because like doxers usually aren't crazy enough to do anything with the information that they have. They just want to put it out there in hopes that crazier people decide to do something with it.
The billionaire doxed me on live TV, and we had like 20 pizzas and prostitutes sent to the house.
But he was doing that because he knew that dumb shit would happen, not that because someone would murder you or anything.
Well, yeah, we could have got murdered.
You could have, but it wasn't. That wasn't the intent behind it.
If one of us got murdered, I think the other one would have got a bonus.
He didn't want to. He was running a TV show, and he didn't want the TV show to be just you guys laying around in a hotel room. So he sent hookers and pizza.
Way to defend a dox artist, Benjamin.
It's weird that guy would send hookers to like people's hotel rooms on battle cam, and they would like have sex with hookers.
He sent one to this
cam.
guy's house who was a virgin, and he sent like a 350-pound prostitute.
Sometime, Nick, you got to hear these stories.
They sound wild, man.
So this billionaire owned a TV station in LA that was also broadcast all over the internet. It started out as almost like the Home Shopping Network, where they were like trying to sell stuff from the
celebrity
store.
Used goods.
Yeah, on like Melrose Drive or whatever.
It was It was parallel to Rodeo. It was Cannon Drive. Cannon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it evolved into like eventually people torturing themselves, like to stay on the air. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much for being on, Nick. It was awesome, and we'll have you back again sometime soon.
Yeah, man, it was tons of fun. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.
And for the rest
anything
of you
want to send anybody your way right now before you go?
Well, in 37 minutes, I'll be going live on my show. We'll be talking about some drive-by Twitter lawyers commenting on the Vic Mignogna situation. Some guys with actually some pretty sizable Twitter audiences. It's the first time we've had actual lawyers weigh in somewhat of an opposition. But it'll be interesting to weigh out how their arguments start to break down immediately when you start presenting them with facts and procedure about the case that they're clearly unaware of, and watching them retreat from a small town, unimportant Minnesota lawyer in great fashion. We may have the actual Ty Beard himself call in, who is Vic's actual lawyer, and I'm not sure. He said it depends on what he's up to tonight. He's up at a convention, a role-playing game convention in North Texas. So he may be calling in to talk about it, because there's some very big criticisms of one part of one statement out of 400 defamatory statements that people have latched onto and said that the entire lawsuit is lost. Not to put out clickbait, but I mean, that's how they phrased it. It's actually not lost. It's completely irrelevant to the case in basically every way. And these lawyers are just trying to get sucked off by Ken White, otherwise known as Popat, who is the lawyer spooge fountain. And that's where you go on Twitter is at Popat. If you're a lawyer who wants attention, you desperately try and jerk off Ken White so he'll retweet you so you can maybe get a few more followers. But yeah, we'll be talking about that tonight, and it should be good fun.
Awesome. And we're going to be on Twitch, so I think when we're done with Twitch, we will probably send people over your way.
Yeah.
So
sounds great, man.
It's awesome.
All right. Yeah, see the rest of you on Twitch. And Nick, thanks again for being on. Good night, everybody.
In the beginning, there was nothing. And then there was the Drunken Peasants Podcast.
Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. From the strangest corners of the internet, gonna get TP'd by Billy and Ben. You know where you can find them at. Get ready, cause they're gonna kick your... Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants.